3, 2. Oh my God.
What's up?
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the program.
Shout out to Airtime, y'all podcast.
Yes, sir.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Today's guest was a big inspiration on myself and many others, especially coming from the east side of Canada, venturing over here to Whistler and making his mark on not only the rail community, pipe, backcountry community, filmed for pretty much every production company at one point, especially here in Canada. Inspirational speaker, snowboard coach, and just all around great human. We got one of my favorites, Etienne Gilbert, on the podcast. How you doing, boss?
Woo! Thanks for the intro, buddy. I'm doing great. I just got back from the Scandinavian Spa thanks to you. After a couple of days of snowboarding, first 2 days in a row in, I'm going to say 6 or 7 years. Damn. Since I've had like 2 days in a row of shredding. And it's been 15 years since I've been here in Whistler shredding. So it was a well-deserved day of resting. So it's perfect, man. I'm feeling great.
I mean, 2 days on the mountain, you took 6 years of a pause, you could say, from snowboarding, and for a good reason, and we will get into that later. How was the Scandinavian Spa for you?
I love that place. Funny story is that I've actually did some landscaping there when it was being built. A lot of the plants, the rocks, the little pavers. Worked there for many hours. And then somehow, I don't know, me and my girlfriend at the time, but my wife now, Susie, we ended up getting a deal, and we did like one of those little promo videos, that they play when you walk in. So we had the first one. It is still online. I always show it to people I showed it to my brother, and I'm like, let's go there. Let's check it out. This is a great spot. And he was laughing. So I love that place, man. It's I think I would do it more often if I was living here, that's for sure.
I have a similar story. I built the Waterfall there with Russell Dalby back in the day.
There you go.
And it right before, like, nothing was built yet. It was just some pavers that we had laid, and then we started right when you walk into the left-hand side, there's like this like beautiful babbling brook, and then it flows into a waterfall. Yeah. And I remember like putting all those stones in, and we're laying down the waterfall. And I remember it started snowing, and it was like November, and I was like super young. I was probably 18, 19 years old. And it was the first time I ever felt like, I'm like, I got to quit this job soon. As soon as the snow hits, like, I'm out. Like, I bought a pass. I saved up $3,000 or whatever. And I'm like, I'm ready to board.
Oh, man. That early season feeling when you're new to Whistler, and you wait. There's that waiting period between the summer and the winter, and the fall slowly gets colder, and you're just pumped. You're like, let's go. And that trip has been good for this because, I came back here, like I said, maybe 6-7 years ago. But my wife was pregnant at the time, and the oldest one was like 16 months. So, it was a good snowboard trip, Whistler trip, and I caught up with some friends and did some riding. But just to be back here by myself without the family and with the boys, it's just tapping into this other sort of memory bank, and it's pretty awesome. And it's kind of weird at the same time and spooky, you walk places and you get these like, oh yeah, that. Oh yeah, this. And it's like every place has a connection to a memory for me, Yeah, so it's awesome. I've been enjoying the last few days for sure.
Okay, so before we started recording, there's a little photo I got on the top left up there. An iconic photo of Snowboarder Mag, shot by Scott Sullivan, of Mark Morissette ollieing through some trees, and you immediately recognized the photo and were speaking to what that photo kind of means to you, to snowboarding, and I thought that was kind of a interesting take, so maybe we'll start there.
It caught my eye, and I think I knew you had it. I think you have mentioned that photo in a previous podcast, but and it's probably also because of the circumstance that I'm in, and coming back, I feel like this trip is like a spiritual trip for me, and looking at that, it's like makes me like shiver, like I got the goosebumps on my arms right now because it's like everything is in that photo for me. Like, it's simple. It's nothing crazy. It's powder. It's no grab. It's just pure, just like rawness with like poetry around it or something. And it was on the cover of a magazine for a good reason, you know. And a lot of people will remember. Like, if you talk to a snowboarder of my generation, they'll know, you know, 100%. Like, maybe there's a odd few people that might have missed it, but if you've seen it, it stays with you, I think. And yeah, you look at that and it's like beautiful.
The way I've always looked at that photo was, oh, cool, it's some dude ripping pow, like cool ollie. That's younger version me.
Yeah.
When I first saw that cover. Lately, when I look at it, it resonates so much deeper, because what it looks like to me is when you are riding alone with maybe one or two other friends on an epic pow day, and the last thing that you are thinking about is filming, shooting a photo.
Yeah.
It's just you and your homies ripping.
Yeah.
And that ollie beside all those trees in the powder just looks like an ollie that nobody should have captured. Like, it was just for you.
Yeah. And if you were there that day, and if you were just riding through with your buddies, and, you know, you stop somewhere, take a breath, and your body just comes ripping and does that, you would be like, fuck yeah, let's go. You would be like just so pumped, right? And you would have both those shivers and be like, we're on, motherfucker. And you just follow it back and you just try to catch up and just, yeah, that's it. I mean, that is what it's all about too, right? When you come here for your first season or two, and the early season finally kicks in, and the snow is dumping, and the people are amped, and the energy is high, and you know, and you're just going down the mountain, like, that nugget there is just like the best, you know. Yeah.
And I think that anyone who's been snowboarding for like a long period of time, especially people who are mid 90s and before that, there's certain things like that photo of Mark Morissette or of Ingmar Backman's method, or like there's certain photos and certain video clips and certain videos that you do get that crazy feeling.
Yeah. And it's always linked to where you are at in your life, right? And so that thing is linked to a time of your life, and those feelings are connected to it. So to me, like, it's also like early days, pure excitement, just like, you know, like, it's just that that's all you think about or feel or work towards. And it obviously for me, it connects with that part of snowboarding. So if you take the photo just as it is and show it to a kid that starts now for the, you know, snowboarding, maybe it's not going to have the same impact. I don't know. But that's what it is for me. You know, I can only speak from my experience of the things in this world, and that's what it means to me.
Well, let me ask you this. Are there any other iconic images in snowboarding or videos or nostalgic pieces, maybe a snowboard, that kind of gives you that same feeling?
It's so hard, and I'm sure that everybody would say the same thing. But yeah, you said the Ingmar method. That was messed up. You know, there's the crazy messed up moment, and then there's the beautiful snowboarding sort of like in the root moments, you know. The crazy moments, it's like, yeah, Backman. Think about Travis Rice, some of this, like, you know, the first corks, maybe double cork he's done, like on some of those massive jumps. Oh no, the pyramid gap, or whatever, Chad's gap, whatever it's called. Which one is it?
Well, there's two there.
Yeah,
Chad's
the biggest
is the bigger one. That's
yeah. So you know, that Chad, that's fucked up. Like, oh, Michael Chuck, you know, coming out, like, he traumatized me. That dude, like, actually traumatized me. I'm like, try to like make it a snowboarding career. I'm kind of thinking to myself, I'm pretty good. And then this fucking guy comes in and is literally like, you're like, what? I'm gonna have to do this now to be a pro? You're like, fuck. And then, so definitely, there's not necessarily an image, but like just seeing him live at the West Beach Classic that year, just going so fucking big. And you're like, how can and crashing, and how can a dude like just take so much beating and just continue? So anyway, so he was a big impact as well on like just seeing what snowboarding can be, right? There's those moments and those images. As far as movies, you know, Upping the Ante, I think, is that how you say it? I don't even know.
Upping the Ante.
Yeah. So that was like the first snowboard movie that I saw, and I was like, holy shit, like there's so much there, you know. So that remains to me the snowboard movie that had the most impact.
Who was in that movie? Off the top of your mind, like Peter Line,
Jamie was in there, Thurrier was in there,
Dave
Peter
Downing,
was
probably.
Downing, Selesnik,
The original Mack Dawg crew.
yeah. And the soundtrack, you know, it would just kind of
Yeah.
work. And then, you know, you play it over and over again. And
Soundtracks are wild because like
Yeah.
a song comes on from that movie,
yeah,
and you're driving.
Yeah.
You're living in Australia now. You got 2 daughters. You're
Yeah.
cruising. You're by the beach,
Yeah.
and a song from Up in the Ante comes on,
Yeah.
and you're like, "Oh fuck yeah!"
yeah. Sometimes you'd be like just doing some house chores and then this song pops into your head. You're like, oh, fuck yeah. And then you don't, you know, sometimes I don't even know like the name of the song. So I look up the snowboard movie to go play that song from that movie. But yeah, they obviously there's some connection there as well with the music. But Pleasure, Simple Pleasure, when I moved here, I think that was released first or second winter that I was here. And yeah, just the intro, you know. I think it was Wish I Was Elvis, the song. And I wish I was Elvis, you know, all the girls. And, the, you know, everything about the intro too was like, and I think it was, again, connected to, okay, I've done Whistler a year now. I know I got better. Let's go. You know, just pumped up to have a crack at it. And it's, again, like every year, you know, the level goes up, and you're a bit behind. You see the video parts, and you're like, holy shit, this is what happened last year. All right, let's go. Yeah.
Then you watch Michael Chuck's part in Momentum, and what was that last crippler kind of flip that he did? A Michael Chuck, basically. It's like it's like 200 feet.
Yeah, I actually don't remember any of his footage. I just remember the visual at the West Beach Classic live. I was like, man, okay, he's on a different level. Yeah.
All right, so let's shift gears a little bit here. What have you been up to these last 15 years or so? This pause from snowboarding, which we can kind of get into why you paused in the...
I mean, it's crazy to think it's 15 years, but, you know, after the Winter Olympics, I left. I had to retire, and we can go into some details or no details depending on how we want. Because I don't even know if I want to go into detail about this because I've spoke about it so many times, you know. And part of this trip, I feel, is like closing a loop of that. Because what happened is I left in anger, but also in excitement. So it's a classic. What motivates somebody is something. It's either you move towards something because you're excited, or you move away from something because it's painful, right? So for me, it was both. I was in pain physically, mentally. I just couldn't ride the way I used to ride. I couldn't see myself living in a town, not being able to do what I had done for the previous 10 years. So I was like, fuck, I need a break. Mentally, physically, I'm done. I had no more sponsors. And, you know, I met Susie while I was injured, which was great because, you know, she really helped me because realistically I was in a, you know, mild depression state on painkillers and, you know, dealing with the pains for a while, and just the whole career collapse. Long story short, I left because I needed a break, and 2, because the girl I was with, Susie, who's now my wife, she showed me where she was from on Google Earth. Northern Beaches of Sydney, Australia. Fuck, beautiful place, you know. And I've always grown up going to the beach in the summer with my parents, and, you know, going to Tofino for some surf. And I had a connection with the beach that was very strong. And I do remember, you know, I think having a girlfriend at the time that had a place on the island, and, you know, we went there at her family's place, and she told me about her childhood, and I just, along the way, one day out of nowhere, maybe after a mushroom trip, maybe ordering a mushroom trip or something, and I was like, man, if I have kids one day, I'm gonna have them by the beach because I want them to experience that lifestyle, you know. And this thought, just came out and just left and just kind of sat there. And because I never really planned to have a family. It wasn't something like one day I want to have kids. No, it was never that. It was, if I do, I would like to be able to give them, you know, experiences and opportunities and whatnot. So at the time when suddenly I'm retiring, you know, and Susie is also going through a change of career, suddenly it's like, oh, well, let's just go to Australia. And then we're like, okay, let's go. I've never been there in my whole life. you know. And we said, we're moving, let's go. We sold everything and we just went. So it was more of a gut decision and a feeling decision, and again, like moving away from the pain, just not wanting to deal with the situation, but also following a dream. So, and for 15 years, you know, it's basically been like marriage, mortgage, kids, 9 to 5. Not right away, but I think my first 9 to 5 was like when I was 35 years old, I think. And it hit me. I was like, holy shit, I'm here. I got kids and mortgage. I got a 9 to 5 job. But man, it's admitted, you know, being a dad and having a family, it's amazing. You know, wouldn't change it. That's what I've been doing, just raising a family. And when I was younger, I used to like, what's the word for that? When you look down on something, you know? Not necessarily look down, but I was like, some of my friends were starting family early, and I was like, oh, fuck, what are you doing, man? You know, go live. Like, and I didn't quite appreciate that. I guess for them, that was their right time, and they were passionate about that, and having a family, that's what they wanted to do. And now I get it, because when you're in it, it's a lot of fun. It's a hard work, but it's a lot of fun. Yeah.
The thing that I look forward to most in starting a family is the fact that you're creating, or you have the opportunity to create, a support system like no other. Like the way that like my sister and me and my mom and dad were all there for each other is like amazing. And I look at like you, for example, and you said that you had a really serious injury there. And you meet this girl, and she's there for you during this dark time and helps you get out of that. Yeah. And now you're still with her, and you've created this family, and you can share that bond with your 2 daughters. Yeah. And you can create this like tight knit group that's just going to be there for each other through thick and thin. Cause life is fucking wild. And to have 3 people in your corner that are really going to love you for this entire ride, that are going to be the ones that are there in the hospital bed when shit fucking hits the fan, that are going to show up no matter what. It's like you want to create that group around you so that when shit does hit the fan, that there are those people that go above and beyond. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, I think you touched on a few things there, because, you know, think about family, hospital beds, you know, I've had a fair share of that in that 15-year gap. Learned a lot through that death, which was in a weird way like awesome. Susie, my 2 girls, Nivy and Maddie, like so awesome, like so much life, you know, so much happiness and just curiosity and just good vibes, you know. Obviously, like there's fights and stuff, but like everywhere we go, we're the last one there. We're the loudest, and we're the last one to leave, you know. And a lot of people, like strangers, like even come up to me and, "Oh man, your daughters are so cool and so respectful and so well," you know. Like it's just, we get compliment all the time about our girls wherever we go, from people that we know, from friends or from strangers. And I mean, like that's the biggest reward, you know, to know that you're not fucking it up too bad for them.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So yeah, love them so good, and you know. And the way you look at things in life is, and it's something that I've learned, and it's not because I say it now, it doesn't mean that I do it all the time and then it's like easy for me, but like you got to choose at how you look at things, you know, and you don't want to be the toxic positivity kind of guy. Did I say that right? Because you can actually be like so positive that it's actually like kind of toxic, because you're ignoring the fact that it's shit and it's stuck in the mud, you know. But you do have to look and be aware of how you label or how you approach things, because it can suck you in, you know. And with the whole back issue, you know, because this is what it was a back injury that got me out. Over the years, I kind of reframe or purposely did something to change my mindset, you know. So it's true or it's not true, I don't know, but it's just the way it is. And so it was a day where I think I was doing some sort of therapy work of some sort. I think it would have been either an ayahuasca trip or like I did a life coaching course, and they run you through a few different modality of therapy, because if you're gonna do it to the clients, you have to do it yourself first. But anyway, one of the things that came up in one point was that my kids were born the day that I hurt my back. If I didn't hurt my back, I would have not. Maybe I would have met my wife Susie, but I don't think it would have worked, because I don't think she's the kind of person that would have enjoyed me being gone all the time. And while I was in a full snowboarding mode, I wasn't necessarily keen on having like a girlfriend and an attachment or somebody else than me to have to focus on. I know it sounds bad, but we were all selfish, but as an athlete, you have to be selfish to a certain degree, and everybody has a different level of selfishness. I told myself, hey, all this beautiful stuff is because of the back injury, you know. Or recently I even said, you know what? Fuck, who knows? Maybe I'm lucky as fuck that I'm still able to like ride for fun and do other things. Maybe some other people would be done. I don't know. I'll never know, right? So over the years, I had to do some work, and sometimes it's conscious, sometimes it just pops up. But I'm definitely, you know, it's been a huge journey of learning to deal with the back pains and the occasional like spasm, and slowly like, okay, I'm not doing this anymore. I love it, but I'm not doing it. Okay, I love this, but I'm not doing this anymore. So it's been a lot of like skateboarding, surfing, snowboarding, all slowly getting pushed to the side, you know? And so it's like you're dying a little bit every time you let something go. I think for me, one of the big things that came up once, I was doing a Reiki session, because it seemed like Reiki has been also a thing I can tap into every now and then to let go of some stuff that I'm starting to realize, there's something stuck there. And I'm not always good at knowing what it is, but I can feel like there's something's not right?
What is Reiki for
Reiki
people?
is like energy, like sort of healing type stuff. So it's hands off, lay on a table. There's a bit of work that goes into your session. So you'll talk to the therapist about, you know, what's going on for you at the time, maybe an intention that you have going into the session, and whatever. And so she'll do like a sort of, you know, what if for holistic reading, and she picks up on a couple of things, and she'll tell you, well, this is what I'm saying, But so this time when I went to her, I basically told her, look, you know, I feel like I've been wanting to cry for months, but I don't know how to do it. Like I'm just stuck. And it was layers of things, you know, family, finance, career, health, whatever. There's always a layer of things. It's pretty rare. It's just always one thing, right? In our life, it's usually like a layer of stuff, so, which makes it even harder to figure out like what's going on. So anyway, I went in there, you know, saying I need to cry, I don't know how to do it, something's stuck, and I think my back just needs to release that energy, right? Because I think we all keep energy in an area of our body for some reason. People, it might be the neck or the shoulders or the hands, whatever. For me, I think it's always been my back. So that was one of the things that was good about the back, is that when I felt it coming, it was like, you're anxious, you're nervous, you're resentful, there's something there, right? So whatever it is, it seemed to all go to my back. So when it flares up, I gotta go, okay, what's going on here? Is it just physical? Is there something else? So anyway, I went there because I realized I was like, no, this is more than just physical now. There's some stuff that's been sticking there that needs to go. And the whole topic of resentment came up towards people, maybe in my life, towards circumstances, etc. And after a while, it was like obvious. I was like, fuck, I just need to forgive myself. I was resentful towards me for, you know, maybe not having looked after my health enough, or for doing bad decisions along the way. So there was some resentful, and I was like, and I never knew. I thought it was everybody else, you know, people in my life or things in my life. I thought, oh, fuck if this and this. It's not fair, because usually resentment is an imbalance, right? Between you think you're doing more and the other person or the other circumstance is doing less, and you're like, fuck, I'm doing all this and I'm not getting what I need. So in my mind, it was like I had the right to be resentful because these things were happening. But then it was like, no, you got to start from where there. So that was a huge thing. And then on that table that day, and I never experienced this before, never knew it existed, but I was laying down, the waters were coming out of my ears. I was crying, but I wasn't getting the other crying behaviors, right? Where you shake a bit, it's hard, like you're a bit flush, you're a bit red, your jaw's a bit weird, right? When you're crying, or your chest. It was just water coming out of my ears. And I was like, what's this? She said, don't worry, it's very normal. Happens all the time. You're releasing. Some people cough, yawn, snot. The ear is one thing. So I was like, fuck, here we go. After the session, I had a real cry, which was good, you know, in the car by myself. What better place to cry in your car, right? But it was good. It was a resentful, the sadness and all this stuff was coming out, but it was also at the same time, it was love. It was joy. It was like there's a chunk there that's been fucking there for a while, God knows how long, you know, but felt a lot lighter after that session. So you can see there's a few different like little tools there as well that I've tapped into over the years to just try to manage, I guess, you know, the in and out, the in and out of energies and stresses and whatever.
I really like that you touched on the layers, because I don't think there's nobody who's like, for you specifically, like, I broke my back and that's why I'm mad. There's layers before that. There's layers after. The back was just a part, yet a big part.
Yeah.
But there was so much stuff before that probably on top about who your personality too. Like if you're a really driven person, which I've always known you to be somebody who it seems to, you want to excel or do your best at least. When you were the head coach at Camp Champions, I think you took that role really serious. I think you did a really good job at that.
Appreciate that.
I think that most people look at troubles in their life as that is the culprit. Where when they really look at it, they're like, that thing's not the only culprit. Yeah. There's more to this story than just the broken back.
The saying is that the problem is not the problem. The problem is how you see the problem. You know, that's a good saying, right? Like it's how you interact with it. That's the problem. If you're resisting it, which we always do, because, you know, something happens, you're like, fuck no, I don't want this. You know, the easiest analogy I've ever put in place was that, well, picture a huge fucking football player and that person is whatever, financial problem or couple issues, right? And that problem is coming at you and is going to run you over. Do you think that hitting him is a best solution and trying to like stop him? Or do you think like maybe like getting out of the way or like running with him? Anytime we fight a problem, like it's pretty obvious that it makes it worse. So that's hard. That's hard to do because we're wired to avoid pain, you know.
There's these times in your life where you are trying to go from A to B, and you've been working for an extended period of time to go from A to B, which for you was like, I want to be a pro snowboarder. Then you hit being a pro snowboarder. And then from B to C is like, I want to take this and I want to be one of the best. And when something in life derails that's slightly out of your control, like a back injury, where you just cannot come over, like you can't go over that hurdle, and coming to terms with that is really hard. Do you have any advice for people that like, how do you get through that?
I have no advice. All I can do is share my experience because, you know, we all have a different path to work through some stuff. I think my process might be different to yours. So you might be able to pick some of the things that I've done that might work for you. But if you bring it down, and there's always crossover between physical and emotional. So, and I'll kind of flip on that and go to the physical side. One of the biggest things I've learned with the physical side is if you ever, you know, for me it was my back. And at one point I was like fucking desperate to fix it, right? Quick, somebody fix me. Like you go to the acupuncturist, fix me. You go to the chiro, fix me. You go to the physio, fix me. You go in the yoga, and you kind of like, I was looking for this external force, professional, to come and fix my problem. You know, it took me a while to realize that no, nobody here is gonna fix you. You're gonna fix yourself, right? And these people will help you trigger some of those things that's gonna work in your favor. So that was the first thing. You know, you heal yourself, not medicines, not. These things are helping, but at the end of the day, it's your body and your mind doing the healing. So that's one. Two is that I was so looking for an answer, looking for a solution. I was like layering therapies. How the fuck are you supposed to know what's work if you have like 5 different things going at once? Right? It's way too much. Again, it's like even that, the energy going into my healing was like quick, desperation, go. Like, man, like that's. So after a while again, I realized now, if you want to know if acupuncture works, you only do acupuncture. Well, whatever, you have a routine, right? You have a set routine. You do X, Y, Z. That routine works for you. If you want to add some other things, you can't add 2 or 3 at once because you're not gonna know. You add one, you do it 3 or 4 times. If there's a result, yes, this works. 3 or 4 times, you get no result, stop it right away. Like professional have told me this, is like, don't do it. If it should help, it would help right away, not after 5 sessions, you know. So those are the 2 main things that I think can also translate to emotional stuff, is that you heal your own emotional stuff. Some people are able to help you get to that place where you can heal it, but you do the healing. And 2, don't go and try too many things at once. Just stick with one, go through it, you know. So I guess this is what I learned for me. And when I simplified things, I mean, the back healing really started the day that I accepted that, you know, it's going to take time, but it will come around. And just accept it the best you can and go through the process, you know. The other massive thing that my Australian acupuncturist told me when because eventually I had a surgery, you know, while I was in Australia. I heard it in Whistler here snowboarding, but I had the surgery in Australia years after when it just wouldn't go away. And at one point I was like jacked. Like this guy said, like, man, I saw him years later. Like, you were the standard of the most fucked up person I've ever seen. Like, your back was so fucked that from that day onward, every time I treated somebody else, you were my point of reference. And one day he told me, you realize you're not going to be like this forever. Just that one sentence. And it was like this chill came over me, which I feel again right now. And I was like, fuck yeah. I was so stuck, so focused on like the pain and the struggle. And I felt like I was in this infinite world of pain. And then he just said, you know, you're not going to be like this forever. And I was like, fuck yeah, it's going to be an end. You're right. So I was like, the perfect timing. I don't know if the same thing would have been said to me at a different time. It would have landed the same way. But on that day, it was like, okay, cool. So there's this, the letting go, right? The surrendering. Like, we all hear it, and we know that technically it should help us to surrender to things and to merge and to let go. But to actually do it is the fucking hard thing, right? The actual practice of the knowledge that we have as human is a tough bit. Yeah.
I feel like most people that are tuning in, action sports enthusiasts like myself, we've overcome, or we are injured right now, or we're going through an injury, or that injury is still nagging. I feel like so many of us, you know, the doctor says, you broke that, you can go back in 8 weeks, you know, and lots of us wait for 8 weeks. Lots of us want to go at 6 and 7. Some people go at 5 if they feel okay. Yeah. Some people push it a little bit longer, but the problem I have is, like, I feel like most of us, we're trying to rush. We're trying to get back maybe before we're 100%.
Of course.
You know, when is the time to come back? And do you feel that maybe you came back a little bit too soon with your injury?
Well, that's a very easy answer. But again, I can only speak about my experience and what I did, right? So if I look back, I can say, yeah, I went back way too quickly most of the time. Most of my injury, I went back too quickly. Quick diagnose, some physio, whatever, but you don't really do the follow-up, right? And then I think it was partially linked to, it's easy to go wish of, should have, could have, would have, right? Easy, right? But what I see looking back is what I've done is that I would be good in the early stage of, you know, going in, getting in shit sorted, but I wasn't necessarily good at going back through the healing process and just checking in with the professionals and getting their advice on I would get the advice early on and I'd be, okay, I'm sweet. I'm doing it on my own now, you know, to save some money or just because I thought I could do it, whatever. For me, I did go back too early, and it was definitely also linked to paychecks, to me wanting to progress my career. Like this was my ultimate goal, you know, and I was working towards, I guess, an expectation, you know, whatever. But looking back, I wish I would have had the balls to go, you know what, guys, it's going to take me a year maybe to get over this. Hope you can support me. I'm really keen on just getting back to it, you know, and I got some more to give, right? But to have the balls to go, like it or not, this is me. And if I get cut or if I lose shit from that, so be it. Because clearly you don't care about my health, right? So easy to say now, of course, looking back, you know, and knowing, but it's when you're a kid and it's gearing up, things are tracking, you're looking good, you feel like you have to keep it going, you know, because it's working. It's like, okay, but it takes balls and a lot of courage to just stand up for your health and for your well-being and say to your sponsors, you know what? I'm taking it off. And you might see me, you know, looking fine, and you might be wondering why I'm not boarding, but to be able to tune in to what's best for you, right? And because I am envious of people who've had long careers. Man, I would have loved to keep going, you know. If I were to change a couple of things in my career, that's it. Looking after my body better and maybe negotiating my contract more better, right? Just being able, this is what I'm worth, and this is what I want and what I need and what I know I deserve for what I'm doing, you know. And when I'm injured, I deserve to heal myself. And if you really support me, you'll support me through that journey. And it's your job to market it. Hey, market the healing. Who does that? What the fuck? Like, you know, like the journey of the marketing, I've always felt like, it was like, dude, it's like you can market anything. It's been proven so many times before, right? So it's like, it's now the good thing is like we can do it, right? You guys can do your own like covering of your stuff. So I think that's amazing. That's the positive side about now, you know, the way things are now. But back then you obviously rely on people doing it for you. And you're like, man, you can capture that. Like they kind of captured Mike's page coming back from the knee stuff, but not that much. It was just a glimpse as well. But there's a lot of stuff there, I think, that could be tapped into, but I don't really see it.
Wow, that was unreal. Dufficy was a good example of like they documented and shared the story, and in true life, they're like,
because he was. How long was he out for?
I think like a year and a half.
Yeah, awesome, right?
Yeah, Kearns was, I'm sure, like a huge part of that was like, Duff's the shit. We're not giving up on him.
That's a good example.
And then he comes back and he films one of the most iconic parts of all time. Because
there was a lot of uncertainty around his recovery as well. It's not like they knew like, oh yeah, in a year's time you'll be good. It was like, well, we're going to keep doing the test. And when we think that your tests are good, you can come back. But there was probably a lot of unknown around how long it was going to take, right?
I mean, unless you are the top dog, like when Mark McMorris hit that tree, you know, all of his sponsors are like, he's the best in the world. Yeah. He's our Michael Jordan. Yeah. Like resources, whatever he needs. Yeah. Like if you make it to like an AM or a pro level, especially a pro level, it would be sick to know that a brand has got your back. If you have a 3-year contract and you get buckled in that, blow your knee, break your back, having the feeling that like, no, my brand has my back, that like, you know, if you need an extra year and if you can articulate in a way and your team manager is like, I believe this guy's putting 100% into this rehab and he wants it, give him that opportunity. Yeah. If within 2 months you see that he's partying and he's given up and, you know, he's not taking it serious, then for sure, you know, cut the guy. Yeah. But like there is at least a conversation that should be had with that rider instead of like this abrupt, like, and you're done, we don't need you anymore. Like, I don't think a lot of times like big companies and sponsors and team managers realize like how much we put into this as athletes and to get thrown away so easily and feel that disposable is like, it's a horrible feeling. And I've heard it from so many pros. Like when you do get the drop with zero warning, it's like, it's a heavy blow. And a lot of pros don't deal with it well and they're still fucking pissed about it.
I think it's such a tricky conversation, you know, because it is a business, and at the end of the day, business is business. The
injury is one of the coolest things I've heard on this fucking podcast. Seriously, document it.
Yeah, there's something there.
Everyone that snowboards or does action sports to any degree gets hurt, and like we all want to get better. Yeah. You know what I mean? And being like, oh, this person broke their back. This person shattered their ankle. Yeah. Bo Bishop on the hurley disintegrated his ankle.
Most people don't know how much of a miracle that is too. Like, that's a massive injury physically and mentally to get over, you know?
And he came back and probably has had almost an 8-year career since then.
Well, I think he actually did better for himself after that. And it was linked because, and you know why? Because suddenly he was doing his own shit and it looked cool and he was in control, right? That's what happened. Before, when it was all left to the movie production to do it for him, he was just another guy. But then suddenly he came back, had a different purpose, different angle. He just got the whole cam thing, you know, and it worked. And that's, you know, I was so happy for him. And a part of me was a little surprised, you know, like, it's like, I love that. I love when you think somebody's good, you're like, oh, man, awesome kid. I don't know if it's gonna work out for him. But then to throw it around, like turn around like this, like, fuck, awesome. So cool.
Dude, we're all here for an underdog comeback story. Like, who doesn't fucking love that?
It's not like, you know, if I don't know if it's the right word, underdog, but yeah, I guess kind of, you know, like the guy was just, you know, good, that people haven't found a way to market in a different way, and then yet he does it like on his own. Fuck, it's so good. Love it.
What do you have to say about letting go of control? I feel like many humans are trying to control everything. You know, you as a parent try and control everything. You know, everyone's just making this roadmap, but there's so many exterior forces and mishaps that are fucking along this fucking road.
Yeah,
you can't control everything.
That's most of the work that I do on myself is probably around that. You know, I don't see myself as a control freak, but again, we all have a level of control that we need. And if it drops below that, we all get a bit worried, right? There was a meditation that I listened to for like, in the space of 1 year, it was my to-go-to, you know. And it was by some chick from British Columbia. I forgot her name now. But it started along, it was like, it's all a mystery. Nothing's for certain. But I know one thing for certain is that it feels good to have the sun rise into her face, right? And the whole thing was about making your life sacred. Again, you're choosing to make it sacred, you know? And even if you have no certainty, right? You were to be never to know for sure what the hell's going to happen, at least you can make it count. And I worked on that for a long time, tried to like make the little things of every day the thing. So at the end of the day, really, that's what it is, right? The small things you do every day are the big things. The once a year, twice a year holiday to Hawaii, yeah, it's nice, you know, but you come back to reality really quickly. So really, if you want to make a meaningful change in your life, it's like the little things you do every day. That's the stuff that counts the most. The hello to your wife, the hello to your kid, the meal time together, you know, the walk outside. Like, and I've learned that through my parents passing away. Like when my parents passed away, they fucking did it with style, dude. Like, you know, like the amount of learning that I got from watching my parents living the dying was fucking unbelievable. And you know, one of the things I was asking myself when I was spending time with my mom when she was dying was like, fuck, like I'm flying from, you know, Sydney by myself just to see my parents. So that I get to put it in perspective, we lost my mom, my dad, my wife's dad, and my wife's grandma in the space of 5 years. So it was like, fuck, hospital, you know, people dying nonstop. And my mom was the last one of those 4. But what she did great was that I would go there and I would say, how can I make this time worth as much as I can? How can I make this count, you know, as much as I can? And the answer was so simple. It was like, there's nothing to do, you know? It's just the simple stuff. You just wake up together, have breakfast, have a little chat, do this, do that, help doing the dishes. Like that was everything, you know, like it's the simple thing. She didn't want to do. I would say, how about would you go over here and do this together? And she's like, no, I don't need this. this is all that I want and need. It's just that, getting up in my house, having you around, fixing a thing or two around the house, doing this, doing that. And I was like, fuck, man. Like she was a king. She was a champion at that. Like just the little things. Yeah, that's another nugget for me, that contribute to you growing as a human and try to make sense of it and try to keep meaning in there and purpose and sanity, because it takes work. It does take work to live a life. I don't think we're delusional to wish for the good life, and the easy life. Like, like Bruce Lee said it, you don't wish for an easy life, just wish for the strength to have a hard one. And if you do, then most likely, like, it's going to be easier.
Yeah.
And like, I don't want to sound like I'm negative. It seems like we're talking about heavy stuff, but like life is fucking amazing. Like, the most beautiful thing I've seen was when my parents were dying. My dad, like, he was the first one to pass away between those 5, I think. And he's like, man, the happiest 3 weeks of my life was after the day I got diagnosed with the cancer. When they told me, when they gave me 3 months to live, the following 3 weeks were the best weeks of my life. Everything I watched, everything I ate, every word I spoke, every person I saw was like, I lived it completely. And I was like in love with the whole life thing. Felt back in love with my mom somehow, like just the relationship got better, Luckily, he was able to stretch it to, I think, maybe 6 months. But if you can be your happiest at your worst time in your life, like there's something there, right? Like it's just a mind shift. You have a mind shift, it's everything change. You're stuck in mud. Well, fuck, this is a nice little bath. It's warm. We can hang out. Some birds, whatever. So yeah, something else that I'm grateful that my parents were able to like kind of like give to me. Just the living the dying, man. The living the dying is a skill. And I've seen other people have the opposite. My granddad was scared shitless of dying. I think he was going to hell for some reason because he was raised Catholic and maybe a few things that he thought, were not good. He was scared. My wife's partner, my wife's dad, my brother-in-law, his last word to my wife was, help me. Like, fuck, that's heavy. Like I can't, like I'm here, like, fuck. So it's just interesting to see, like, how different people have different journey through it. But to see how my parents, like, they suffered, they were sad, but there was a lot of beauty around it, because ultimately, like, that's part of the package. When you're born, you don't remember it. Well, lucky, maybe you can live the dying and just experience a full circle, because that's what it's about, right? It's the whole journey. Like, there's so much in that ending. I'm gonna jump a little bit further ahead there, but so I don't think there's any good or bad ways. Put it that way. Like, even the people that were scared and said help me, I don't believe they die in anger or fear, because I feel like when you get to the point where they have a foot on both sides, death and life, there's a moment where I think, that's my belief. I got no proof because I've never done it and I've never had anybody tell me this, but the feeling that I get in my gut from the different experiences that I've had, dreams, just conversation, is that there's a point where it all makes sense. Your life kind of comes together in a undescribable way, and you make peace with everything, and you can sort of feel that you're also that other thing that comes after death, whatever it is, right? And at that moment, it's like nirvana. It's like pure bliss. It's like pure love. You get to experience it as a human being. You get to feel it, and it's like, doesn't matter what happened before, because now it's all good. So that's my belief. So even though you have a shitty dying, like some people had, they get the same result. They get the peace, they get the love, they get the release. what I like about what my parents did it, but they were able to pass on a blueprint to how to deal with that time when it comes. This is what you do. You live the emotions to the fullest. Whatever is pain, you feel the pain. Whenever there's joy, you feel the joy. And you just try to give the right to each emotion to come to the life to the fullest. Right? They have the right to be felt. They are human emotions. Hey, let's celebrate it. Easier to say, really fucking hard to do. But for me to witness my parents doing it in those last few weeks, I carried that with me, you know, and that's a gift. That's a gift.
What you just said there was a fucking gift. That was fucking incredible. Like, there's so many things there that I agree with, connected with, felt. I mean, 5 years of grief for you in there. The learning you must have, after that 5-year period, what you must have just learned from going through 4 very close people passing away is like a lifetime of learning. And they all had different ways of passings that all seem to have different representations of life and meaning and purpose. I really love you touching on your mom and her just being like, you flying back all the way from Australia and you're hanging out with her and you're like, what can I do? Like, what can I do to like make this perfect and like amazing? And she's like, we're having a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
It's a gray day outside. It's kind of windy and you're here.
Yeah.
Like I know I do this. And I think most people that are of my age, you know, between 15 and 55, we're all caught up in our to-do lists and we're trying to get a heated floor and a new boat and a new shiny car, and we want to have X amount in our bank and we want to look like this, and you know, we're all trying to do that. But then at the end of the day, it's like when you come to the end of the road, it's about those, you know, you said your dad had 3 weeks of bliss and just looking back, and he enjoyed every single he probably crawled into bed and he was like, man, this bed's awesome.
Yeah,
hot
and
hot
the thing
cup
is,
of tea.
The thing is, like, he also felt scared and all the other things, right? You know, along the way, it wasn't like that 3 weeks was necessarily all positive, but he felt alive. You know, he felt alive to the fullest, the full spectrum. You know, and even Chad, like there's this whole thing about it all belongs, right? That's what to me, that's what it is. Like all the spectrum, the whole fucking spectrum, it all belongs to our experience as a human. And every time we refuse one to enter because we don't like it, well, guess what? It's going to wait. It's going to get bigger maybe. And then it's going to come back and get you one way or the other. That life will never give up on you. This is one thing that I've told myself. Again, that's just, all I can say is speak from my experience and what I believe, right? Because other people may have a different experience that works for them, and that's awesome, right? But from my experience, I felt like if I don't deal with something, it's fine. We'll just wait until we feel like you're ready. And if we feel like we need to force you to listen, then we'll force you to listen. We'll fuck up your back. We'll make you fired or whatever, right? Life will eventually go, all right, I have to step in now because you're not listening. And boom, here we go. And that's love. That's life giving you some love, going, okay, I'm here to give you that extra push because you seem to be avoiding that part, you know, of your journey. And that's a skill that that I had to learn, right? So just take the time to look inwardly a little bit and see, okay, what's going on here? Is there something I'm not picking up on? Yeah, not easy.
I love that. I love don't overlook doing dishes with your mom, you know, going outside and painting the garage door with your dad.
Yeah.
You know, the phone call from your sister or your brother. And
if you ever have kids, that's what it is. They don't care. They just want you to be there. You know, hey, look at this and look at that. It's just like just the constant little thing, you know. They just want you there. Seeing, watching, approving.
But as we all know, when you go through that later teenage phase, the only thing you don't want is your parents, especially as girls.
Yeah.
I feel like most girls, I'm speaking for like my sister and other teenage girls, they always push away from like the family for a bit.
Yeah.
Like my sister, I remember she went from being like, we were all this tight little family, you know, we got like a little camper RV and traveled around the West Coast together.
I know, I heard
and
that.
then she turned like 15, 16 and she was just like, leave me alone, Dad. I don't want to go on a boat ride. You know, she's trying to like hang out with boys, etc. And now it's like, obviously that's like long gone, but it's like goes full circle. And it must be hard for parents when for the first time in your existence in parenthood, your daughter or your son's like, I don't want to hang out with you. And you're like, what do you mean? We've been hanging out for 14 years. You know?
It's, you know, I've done a lot of work with young people. So for the last 10 years or so, I think I've been working with young people at risk. So it could be, you know, trauma from sexual abuse or you name it, you know, like neglect or drug and alcohol from the parents or domestic violence. So I've worked with those kids from 12 to 18 across a range of different services and stuff. But one thing that I used to tell the parents for the kids that were lucky to still have parents or carers, I used to tell them, right now they're going through a tough patch, whatever it is, right? And they're going to push you away, but don't do the mistake of giving them all that space they're asking for, because they're unconsciously testing you to know if you still care. Because if somebody tells you, no, I don't want to, you know, leave me alone, and you just, okay, and you leave them alone, and you keep doing that for too long, then they're like, oh, well, they don't care about me. It's like unconsciously trying to prove themselves that their parents don't like them or the dad doesn't support, right? So I always tell the dad specifically, just keep trying. Even if you get turned down 100 times, who fucking cares? The one time she says yes, you're in. And you've basically showed your daughter in that situation that you're actually there for her, no matter what, and you care for her and you're going to keep showing up. Too many people I've seen go the other way and they go, I'm giving her some time, and then the gap is so big and then they're gone, you know. My sister told me, like, and I had a great childhood, you know. My parents were great. I was one of the lucky ones in that way. But she told me once, I wish they were more strict. She used to lie to her friends. She said, oh, no, my parents don't want me to go. Because she felt like that meant they care about me. She wanted to say that she was not allowed to go out. So she made it up. When she told me, I was like, fuck, that proves the knowledge that I have learned. That just backs it up right there, you know. So that's just a little nugget there that I picked up along the way. I was like, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool stuff.
So many of us are dealing with or have dealt with people in depression that are pushing away, addiction, maybe family trauma. Like, what do you think the best way to help that individual is?
Oh, man.
Or maybe not the best, because everyone's different.
Look, the standard approach, right, is like giving advice doesn't really work. People don't want to hear advice. They don't want to be told that they're doing it wrong. That's typically kind of reinforce the concept, oh yeah, I'm doing it wrong. This is how it should be. It's creating a safe place where people feel supported, accepted, and cared for, and creating an opportunity for connection and conversation. You know, that's what it comes down to. Everything else kind of unravel from there. Every time we had any sort of youth program going on, relationship is the first thing. You're not going to have any influence on somebody unless you are listening to them. They feel heard, right? And they feel like you care, and you would have to genuinely care. That's kind of hard to fake that normally. Once you're there with them, you know, in their problem, then you have a chance of influencing. Oh, how about we get up and we go over here? How about we cross that river there? Like, you have to sit on the side of the bank with the people before you have any influence on them. And also what I do with my kids is I tell stories. I don't tell them, I make a mistake. I'm not a perfect dad. You know, sometimes I go, fucking do, you know, it's not therapeutic. But, you know, but what I try to work on is if they come up to me and say, oh, today, you know, like this Fred said this and da-da-da-da-da, and I'll listen to the story and I'll give them a space to express what's going on, and I'll try my best not to have any comments or just judge or suggest things. which as a dad or as a male, I think it's very easy to jump to solutions. But I try to tell a story. Maybe it's right away. Maybe it will be in the car in 15 minutes, but it's linked to that problem. And we'll go, you know what? So when I was young, you know, I was this person, and it will have the same storyline or the same feeling in that story. And I tell them what I did. The outcome might be bad or good, and then I leave it at that. I don't go into, so see, this is what's happening for you right now. No. You don't go there. Tell the story. They're smart. They listen to everything, man. They could be across the room. You think they're not listening. They're listening to everything, unless they don't want to. But they pick up on stuff. They're very smart. And then you let them do the thinking. And now they have healed themselves. They didn't need you because you didn't tell them what to do. They were able to process it, come to the conclusion, make a decision. They own it. And it stays with them. So that's probably something that I would do that works, and I'm getting better at.
Would you say it's really important to remove yourself from the environment that may be causing like the trigger of your feeling or your substance, or does the environment actually play less of a role?
It's always layered. Big role. I think, you know, for me, easy example, I used to smoke a lot of weed. I did, you know, especially when my back got worse. Like I was taking Percocets every day for like 3 months, and I was, you know, layering the weed in there for 3 or 4 months. And I've never been I wasn't a huge weed smoker compared to some of my friends, but daily, right? And I kind of wanted to stop, but it was not easy. Like everywhere you go, you smell it, somebody's offering it to you, it's always in front of you, right? When I moved to Australia, man, no problem. You know, there's nobody else around me smoke. I don't smell it. It's hard to get. I don't know where to get it. And it just stops. Okay, yeah, there's times where I was like, oh, I wish I had something, you know? And but the reason why it was easy was because of the environment. So yes, it has a huge role. But you got to be careful you don't justify your failure because of it. You know, like if it's not easy to change the environment, then again, change the way you look at or the way you interact with it. And sometimes it could be as simple as that, depending on how serious the problem is, I guess. Or, yeah.
I feel like having like your house in order is a good thing too, because that's where you spend a lot. It's like, I think it's overlooked. Like having a dialed house that like, sure. Even if you have the shittiest apartment, you still have the option to keep that very clean and set a vibe. So when you get back, it doesn't feel. And
it's going back to control, right? Like if you can have a place or something you can control over, and then that's at least you feel like this is good. So it gives you that little bit of at least it's not all in control, but this is, you know. And I think you're right. You go home, you come back into that space, you're like, okay, it helps you settle.
I feel like a conversation a lot of people have in their heads is like when to remove themselves from a certain friend or friend group.
Yeah.
Because that's your community that supports and loves you. Yeah. But if it's counterproductive to where you want to go or your health,
for sure,
or maybe like for me, for example, I was around certain things for a lot of my life.
Yeah, I've heard you say that a few times on the podcast, you know.
It's really hard though. Like I'll have, you know, if you're hanging out with 4 people who drink all the fucking time and you hang out with them and that's what you do, they expect you to drink.
Yeah.
And when you stop showing up and they're like, I feel like people get so disappointed in you, and it's not that you don't love them or
for sure.
don't want to hang out with them or have the same jokes. It's just that like you're trying to take yourself in a different direction.
Yeah.
And everybody has, like, we're back to the whole layered thing. Like maybe you are 35 and you have a nest egg coming in from mom and dad, and you know that you never really have to stress about money. Yeah. But for me or other people, like when you know that money is not just going to pour in the door one day and you're trying to like cut out a lane for yourself so you can afford to have a family wherever you live, like those decisions are real. And I think a lot of people get offended by them, and it's kind of a hard thing for people to, I feel like people don't want to abandon their friends.
Yeah, it's not easy to change circle. You know, it has a big impact for sure. Again, for me, it was the opposite. I lost my whole circle. Like again, moving to Australia was great. I know, great life. It's amazing what we built there. But the process was not easy because I removed myself from everything. It was like professional suicide. I don't recommend it to anybody. I didn't really have a backup plan. It was like, let's just go and see what happened. Like, it was like one of those gut feeling. Whatever, good, bad, I don't really know, because I don't know what would have happened if I didn't. I can't really say. But what I can tell you is that when you cut yourself up from an industry that you've been involved with for 10 years, all the people that comes with it, from your family, you go and put yourself in a new setting, it's like, holy shit, okay, where are the anchors here? Like, there's none, you know? Yeah, it's my partner, her family, but I've known her for a while, it's fine. Her family, I'm just getting to know them. No, to not have your homies, to not have your parents you can rely on, like, and not have like the curriculum that you've worked your ass off to build. It's like I had no leverage, you know? And so I don't recommend it, but I think going back to what you're saying, like changing group of friends, and I was a bit like you, I think, well, not you. I can relate to what you were saying, that at the time of my back going towards all that, you can tell, I knew like some of the relationships were not great. Not bad, but not quite what I needed, right? But yeah, you're right, it's not easy to change social group. It takes time, you know? But with the kids that I work with, I see it all the time, and I've been proven so many times as well, is that people rather be with somebody than by themselves, even if they know that person is bad for them, you know. And I remember doing it myself when I was a kid, not so much as I got older, but being alone, fuck, man, that's hard, you know. Not many people can be alone and feel secure, safe, content, happy, you know, satisfied. Especially as a teenager, where you try to like figure out who you are, who you belong to, right? That sense of belonging is massive, right? It's linked to the survival instinct. Back in the tribe days, if you were not included in the tribe, you were dead, because you rely on them to eat, to fight the tiger. So in our human brain, that's still a trigger. Like if you're not accepted, you're dead. So people will go to great lengths to be accepted in a group that they don't fucking care about, because there's no other group they know where to go to. And they're not willing to be by themselves for 4 or 5 months until they find that new group. And then this is where all the shit happened. And then you talk to the kids, sometimes I'll see a kid like 5 years later. I saw this girl actually like last year. She works in a cafe now. I was like, hey, no way. I was like, what's up? And she's like, hey. So a quick chat over the coffee counter. It's like, so you hang out with the same people? And she laughed. She's like, hell no. It's just like, it happens all the time. Like, there's a time in your teenage years that it's like whew, it's a bit slippery, you know. You make the wrong calls and you can go down a big crazy hole. And as a parent, that's hard, right? Because this is what a parent goes like, what do I do? Like, fuck, there's not much you can do, man. You kind of go back to what I said earlier. Make the connection, have conversation, tell stories, let them that you're there, that you care and you're interested, and just let them have a crack at it, you know.
Yeah, there's like tribe A is the one that you're accepted with, let's just say, and tribe A is fucking doing meth all the time, and you're like, fuck, this isn't awesome, but I'm part of the tribe.
Yeah.
And then tribe B is like the one that you're not part of, but you're like, I'd like to be a part of tribe B. So when you leave tribe A, you're not fully a part of tribe B yet, and you're no longer fully a part of tribe A. So you're floating in the middle.
Horrible place as a teenager.
It's horrible. So you're like, I don't belong anywhere. So then I feel like you just get magnetized to go back to A because it's easier.
For sure.
It's easier to go back to like your habit loop than it is to invent a new habit loop.
Man, the whole habit thing is a crazy thing, right? Because again, with a little bit of stuff that I've done with my work, I'm not a psychologist, but you kind of learn you work along psychologists and psychiatrists and other people, and the way the brain work is crazy. It's like a highway, right? Every time you do something, it's like hacking down a jungle with like a hatchet, right? So you make your path, and at first it's kind of hard, you know. Think about like smoking a cigarette. At first it fucking sucks, but if you persist and you hack the path like for long enough, it becomes a fucking nice, easy road to the jungle. You're like, finally, now it's easy. I can smoke no problem. I can have a pack a day. And you go, okay, I'm kind of sick of that now. I gotta stop smoking. Holy shit, look at that jungle over there. It's freaking so thick. And I gotta go down there. Like, fucking hell. And you start chopping, right? The thing though is that it takes a lot longer for a path to grow over than it takes to hack a new one. So you hack a new path and you go, okay, I can start to go through here. But the day that you're tired, that you're grumpy, that life doesn't go your way, and you're like, fuck this, unconsciously, your brain will go back into the old track because it's still an easier path than the one that you're trying to carve. So it's like an actual thing that happens in your brain, right? The path of less resistance. Boom. So, that's why it takes work to change, and that's why motivation comes after, not before. And I say that to kids all the time. And if you get motivated, if you're waiting to be motivated, you're going to wait it your whole life, because motivation comes after doing the work and then seeing some result. And you go, oh, this is actually working. I want to keep going. I want to do it again. But at the beginning, fuck, man, it takes a lot of strength. Yeah, and this is where the environment can help, right? Because if you're only one fighting against your own path and the tribe, oof, that's hard. But if the path can support you, then it becomes a little bit easier.
Okay, we went in deep here. Psychology 101 here on Airtime. This is fucking incredible, by the way. If you don't always luck out with I love this conversation. But
and I know you're doing. It's hard to and I don't want to say I'm a professional again. I really want to emphasize that it's just from my own experience. People may experience something else, and that could be just as true as what I'm saying.
Yeah, all Airtime podcast conversations are just two individuals having an open-ended conversation. And we're not professionals, but this is where our life has taken us. And this is the stuff that we've learned. But we've breezed over this injury many times now. But we haven't talked about the injury. No. So how did you get injured?
Okay, so I'll try to give you the quick story, because again, there was a time where I was identified with this back thing, which is not a great thing, right? Because maybe you're aware of that. But identity is great. Identity is important, but it can also act like as a bit of a trap in a box you find yourself stuck into, right? So I'm not a big fan of label of identity, but it's still part of life and it's important to have at the same time. So long story short is I had ended the closing part in People 2007, which today is my best part by a long shot for different reasons. One, because I was healthy. 2, because the snow was good. And 3, because I was doing one project, not 2 or 3. So it was a great year, the peak of my career. I got invited to work with Mack Dawg, the top movie in my mind, the top movie of all time. My first movie was Diente, and it was like a dream. No, actually, it wasn't even a dream of mine. Like, it was like something that was happening. I was like, holy fuck, I have not even dreamed of this. And now this is here. Like, this is crazy. All right, let's go, right? So I was pumped. But I had a series of injuries, knee including, and it took me a while to realize what happened. But what happened is that I had bruised my heel in a summer camp the summer after, so 2007, I think, after People. That summer, on the glacier, I bruised my heel, and at the same time, I kind of jammed my left hip into the hip socket type thing. But I didn't know at the time. I look at the heel, whatever heel, you just wait. And I kept training through the summer, and I basically got myself stronger in the wrong position, right? So my hip was stuck, and I trained like that, and all the muscles got really strong, but in the position it was putting stress on my back. And the early season started, and I was riding, and I was riding hard, and I was like definitely at the peak, not only in my career, but like board control, sense of confidence was really, really high for me at that time. Mixed with motivation, very, very high, and just the eagerness to just get after it. Unfortunately, the body was not in a good place. So in early season, ride, feeling great, just feeling strong, like just charging the mountain, chops, whatever, switch. Like, my thing was just riding everything switch, like full blast. Like I wanted to feel as confident going switch than regular. So I'm going hardcore, and one day I'm riding with Annie Boulanger and Louis Fontaine. I say his name the French way. And we're just doing the Creekside hit run. And you get to that last little stretch before you turn the It's like a right elbow, and there's like a little set of rock on the right, and you go towards the chairlift there. With the chairlift after the creek gondola.
Red chair?
Yeah. So you go towards red chair, and there's always a little hip there. Little right, sort of like on your heel turn.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I'm hitting that thing. I was like loving it. I was doing this like heel hedge, like super floaty backs of 180. So you go on your heel, you know, and you just pop. Did it a few times, and then, you know, I was feeling pretty good. So I'm going to just go hard at that thing, right? And I landed like in a hole, in a dip, you know, in the uphill, and I stomped the shit out of it, but then my back went, I just felt it, you know, and I just kind of went, I grabbed by both my knees, kept like, you know, crunched up position, rolled all the way to the gondola, and I was done. I went downhill with Annie. I couldn't, you know, I had to like hold myself up like this. I knew it was bad, but, you know, being the first time I hurt my back, I didn't know really how bad it was. Long story short, I just did the recovery, but went back to boarding too quickly, re-injured it. I don't know. In that 1 year, 2 to 3 times maybe. That year was a write-off. I had, I think, 2 shots or 3 shots in like the picture disc, like bonus footage maybe. Man, I look back at those shots and I'm like, man, I should have not been riding on that day. I was, and as you look at me and you're like, what was that? Like just desperate, you know, to do something, right? April, like, let's go get a few shots. And then I think I went into a pretty serious rehab, you know, but I just kept again kind of re-injured it, playing ice hockey once and doing other things. So in the space of like a year and a half, the most crucial part of healing, I just retweaked it a bunch of times and just set myself back. And yeah, and it just kept, I just kept going, you know. So I wasn't giving it the break that it needed to fully potentially heal. I don't know for sure if it would have helped, if it would have healed well, but part of me thinks that I could have, I don't know, a year or 2 of snowboarding if I did the right thing. Other things could have happened. Maybe I could have injured myself even worse. Like, I don't know, right? The rest of the story, but that's how the injury happened. So I basically peaked and I crashed. Literally, I went to the top of my game and just went downhill for 2 years. So I managed to film some stuff with like Sandbox, which were, you know, it was cool enough that Kevin took me on as, you know, as an older guy, was able to like help some of the younger guy. Me and Rube had a few days. So I had some cool shots as well. And I think it was, I forget the name of their movie now.
All Day, Every Day or something?
Yeah, All Day, Every Day. And I think Sugar Shack still had the movie, and it was Pleasure Inc., I think. That's the last year that I got some footage. Same year that as I had the interview in Snowboard Canada, I think. It was not bad. Pretty good year considering I was like half, you know, killed and going out every day thinking, don't hurt yourself. And that's such a bad place to be, you know. If you're there in your career, like that's my advice, if I'm going to give you one advice today, you know, just take a few moments to yourself, go to the spa, and just go in there with the intention to look at that mentality, right? If you're approaching boarding and you're thinking to yourself, I don't want to hurt myself today, you know, that's a bad place to be, because naturally, 2 things. The fun is gone because you're going into a fear approach. You're afraid of hurting yourself versus being excited to do something cool. Because we're always afraid, right? Don't get me wrong, it's scary, right? But if you're going with that shift attitude, right? From like, hey, I'm excited, there's something cool here I can do, it's going to look sick, to I don't want to kill myself or don't want to hurt myself, you're in trouble. And the other reason for that, and again, Psychology 101, if I say to you, don't think of the pink elephant, first thing you do,
Pink elephant.
Yeah, that's what your brain does, right? It goes, I'm going to think of a pink elephant and then I'm going to erase it. So something I've tried to practice that I've learned along the way is to just think in a way that you want to emphasize on the things that you want. So even if you were to go out and say, I want to stay strong out there today, you know, I want to come home healthy, that's still better than I don't want to hurt myself, because you're thinking hurt, and then the chance of life giving you what you ordered is increased by a lot.
So how powerful do you believe your thoughts are?
I've eased off a bit on that belief because I also believe now that sometimes shit just fucking happen. Because you might have all your shit in control, you think you're doing all the right thing, you know, you meditate, whatever it is, right? Like, you know, 'cause we spoke over about a few things here and it sounds like I fucking know what I'm talking about, but I'm not because I still struggle with a lot of that stuff. But let's potentially say that somebody's got his shit together. Jesus, let's say Jesus. Yeah, he's got his shit together, right? You think, right? No problem. Well, guess what? Shit happened. I think there's definitely a part of chaos and randomness that we cannot control, and that's where I think you go back to like it's all mystery. Nothing is for certain. There's some truth to that, right? But yes, you can have a lot of influence. Maybe not the final say, but you can have a lot of influence in the way you think, the way you talk, the people you hang out with, the book you read, the movies you watch. Everything that goes in and everything that goes out has a direct impact on the life that you're creating for yourself, right? You attract shit, you create stuff. Yes.
Do you think what you say out loud has an impact?
Direct impact.
Fuck.
Direct impact. And it's hard. It's a hard thing to change, you know. And I'm not gonna go all woo-woo on you and say, you know, like the laws of whatever it's called, you know, that the not attraction, but the, you know,
manifestation.
Yeah, like it's true. There's a level of that. Don't get me wrong, okay? But it's very cocky to think that I'm gonna manifest everything. You know, really? No, man. You got no fucking idea what's going on. Yeah, do your best. That's great. You know, do all the human things you can do. Awesome. But just be ready. Like you never know.
Yeah, because I was watching this reel and the premise of it was that comedians always end up in a very dark place because their whole thing is making fun of themselves.
Yeah.
And it starts off funny and every comedian ends up in a fairly dark place or suicidal or on pill. Like not all of them, but the vast majority.
There's been a fair amount of recorded, you know, evidence.
Yeah, totally. Mitch Hedberg, you know what I mean? That the list goes on. I was gonna say Tommy Boy, but not Tommy Boy. Chris Farley, and it continues. Yeah. But I feel like I always do. I'm always so self-deprecating, and I'm like really trying to be aware of that now because I speak in a way that is poor about myself. But I did it. It started. I remember at the skate park. Yeah. I did it as like a defense mechanism because I would be like, if I tell everybody I suck,
of course,
nobody can take that away from me. I'm like, my 5-0 suck. My 5-0 suck. Like,
and it works. It works. You have a set of expectation that's set, you know, and you know it's not really my fault, you know. If it's not working out, I'm not that great, you know.
Oh, totally. I got made fun of actually. I had this like shitty skateboard I got from Walmart, and then, you know, everyone was like, well, that guy's they called me the Silent Night because you couldn't hear me zipping around on the asphalt because my wheels were gel. And then, of course, the next year, you know, I buy like a real setup. I got like my flip deck and I'm all like fucking, you know, Spitfire wheels. And I'm like, I'm ready to go.
Pumped.
And then I'm like, oh, fuck. Like a safety net is like if no one can make fun of me if I'm making fun of myself. Yeah. But then here we are all these years later and I'm like, I could probably tone that down a little bit. Like, I don't know if that's like working out so well to like take jabs at yourself all the time, because it was what started as something that I would vocalize, but then you also internalize it in a weird way, and I don't know if my brain knows the difference between if I'm joking or not.
The science shows that your brain doesn't know the difference. I don't know for sure, okay, but I've heard this, and it kind of makes some sense to me. But if you saying something about somebody that's bad, your brain sees it as you saying something bad about yourself. And the mechanism of that, I'm not too sure, but you know, one of my belief, again, only for me, is that whatever you do to others, you do to yourself. And when you do whatever you do to yourself, you do to others. And you can also flip it and say whatever you do for others, you do for yourself, and whatever you do for yourself, you do for others. So there's that sense, for me, there's that level of like connection of like we're all one, right? That sort of consciousness thing that some people, you know, may or may not believe in, but I think there's something there. And yeah, if the concept, if you're a part of the living experience, you're part of my world. Without you there, like my world is not the same. If I'm gonna complain about you, like I'm complaining about my world, about me, and I'm putting myself down in a weird way, saying, well, you've allowed this guy to be in your life, and you're complaining about him. Well, he's part of you, right? So there's some slight nuance there that you can argue with. So. It's not, you don't have to be perfect. I think it's more about picking up on those little things along the way that I've tried to adapt. And I don't think I didn't came from a very strong mental toughness or mental fitness. My dad has a big influence on me, an awesome man, but a very bad mental game. He's a very passionate golfer, the worst fucking mental game you could ask for, right? And I think for me, it took me like reading books of sport psychology and spirituality and things like that for me to put the pieces together. And then like years later, I'd go back and play with my dad and be like, what are you doing, man? Why are you saying this? Why are you doing this? Like, you care so much about the game and you do all those things that just are not going to work for you. Like, and he wouldn't listen to me. I'm like, Dad, I'm a professional snowboarder. This is what I do. I have to work on this shit all the time for me to actually do well. And he just wouldn't fucking hear it, right? So I did a lot of ice hockey growing up, and his belief was that, well, to be a professional athlete, it's 80% talent, 20% work. So I had to flip that because, I wasn't 80% talent. I was good, better than the average kid at school, but I wasn't the best snowboarder out there. So I had to consciously like work on some stuff to get my mental game to a better place. And again, it wasn't the best one, but it was better than what I was given by my environment.
Let's rewind this tape. We're going backwards here, in case you folks haven't realized this. We'll rewind it. We'll go really far, and we'll go back to kind of the beginning here. I want to know a couple riders when a young Etienne got to Whistler. You were a good snowboarder at that point. You're riding the pipe.
Yeah.
I've seen the old footage, dude.
That's fine. Let's just say that I was good. Yeah. Let's just say that.
For the time from 98, you were a good snowboarder. Yeah, of course it was popping off here, and there were better snowboarders, but you were very talented at that point. 98, 2000, 2001. Who are some of your favorite pros, and who was inspiring you at that point?
My first apartment in Whistler was filled with the 418 crew. We had a door going into the main bedroom, and it was all the French Canadians. So that was a big thing, obviously. Like, again, you have that sense of belonging, right? That crew that support each other, and you're accepted by them. I wasn't part of the initial crew, but I was from the same area code, and I was riding with the boys, and they were supportive. So that was massive. So all those guys, I can name names, but you know where they are. Like, I'm going to skip the names because I don't want to forget anybody, and there was many of us. But, the guys who were part of that know where they are. Every single one of those riders had inspiration to me. Otherwise, when I moved here, I was inspired by the locals. You come here, I got this, the shop sponsor, whatever, this and that, I can do a few tricks, and then you rock up, and then there's like 3 feet of pow, and you fucked. And all these people around you are just ripping, and you're like, what the hell's going on, man? I am a piece of shit, So I was inspired by the average local skill level of just riding the mountain. So that was a big thing. But then if you go let's go English speaking, other people, Peter Line was definitely up there. Backman was up there. Devon, of course, Canadian, Kevin Young. And Kevin Young was like the first pro rider I saw in the village. And for some reason, I don't know why, but I was walking and he was walking on the path, and we look at each other in the eyes, and I'm like, holy shit, in my mind, I'm like, this is Kevin Young. Typical Kevin, super nice smile. Hey man, how's it going? Like, holy shit. He's the shit. Suddenly, you went from like being a good boarder, like, fuck, this guy's amazing. Didn't really know him, but just that the energy though, right? Because you would read the interviews, or you have a feel for the kind of person he was, and then that, and so that's pretty much the inspiration there, I think.
You weren't drowned by social media back then either, so you really didn't know anything about these pros, so they felt larger than life. Like a Sean Palmer or Peter Line back then were like, these people are rock stars. And then you bump into Peter at the West Beach Classic or something, you're like, they're real.
Yeah, definitely, And I think, remember, also first year going up with Matt Daminsky, like free rider, like he's got one of the biggest cliff on the mountain, named after him, and we're going up the chair, and he's like, oh man, you guys are just killing that park. It was all super nice and just complimenting and saying that obviously he's been watching and he sees like how much we're putting effort into it and working and like just riding well. And I was like, man, thanks, but like, man, I got so much respect for you. I can't do any of this stuff. Like I'm freak out just looking at the thing, So we had this cool like ride, chair lift right up out of nowhere, and I think we kind of knew of each other, but not really know each other. But yeah, lots of respect again for the guys who pioneered the mountain and just rode hard, for the good reasons.
There was a pretty big contest era here for you. You even went to the fucking X Games.
Twice, motherfuckers.
So sick.
But dude, like I had never dreamed of going there, There's a story attached to that, but you keep going.
No, that's the story. Let's
that's
go.
The story? Okay. Well, you got to go back to me reading books about psychology. Yeah, that's just kind of where this whole thing started. And I'm still early in my career, and I got this girlfriend back home. I'm flying back and forth, in the spring, in the fall, I kind of go there and work and work to make money. So I think this was like the first year that I went back in the fall, and I got a job in a fucking banquet, just like setting up conference rooms and, making coffee and like just hospitality kind of stuff, right? Just random, just to make a few extra bucks. I think I was working at the snowboard shop as well. I was working at the DLX, like the Quebec snowboard shop. But I don't know why exactly, but I had like a few shifts there and a few shifts there. So I was like hustling for money, basically, and the season was coming up, and I was reading this book about kind of positive thinking, I guess, or just training your head, your mind into like just giving you a chance to succeed, right? So this book is saying that we should verbalize things in a way that makes things feel like they're real, right? So with a bit of work, I figured out that this was the statement that I was going to word certain things a certain way. And one thing that stuck was every time step back first. A session at the time was one of my sponsors. They asked me to go to the Vans Triple Crown, December session, I think it was. December, yeah. And I was like, I don't have a lot of money. I don't know if I really want to compete, this early in the season. And they were putting pressure onto me, like, man, come on, you really should come. We got a place for you, blah, blah. I was like, okay, that's just fine. Let's just pay for things. Let's go. Let's just have a crack at this. So now I go into training mode, leading up to the event. And every time somebody would ask me, so what are you up to? I would say, well, I'm training really well at the moment. I'm boarding, almost every day. I'm feeling good. And I go to the X game next 2 weeks. I win. And I go to the X game. That's how I would say it. So I wasn't being pretentious of saying like, I'm going to win this shit, but it was worded in a way that told my brain that there was a chance, right? So the words were, I'm training well, I'm feeling good, I'm going to the Vans Triple Crown in a few weeks. I win this event and I go to the X Games. And guess what happened? I won the event. And I was up the X game. And that day, and this was a spiritual experience for me. I'm not kidding, right? It's going to sound very cheesy and corny and, whatever. But going into this, I felt like it was like a do or die. Like I felt like, this year, something has to happen this year. Because I didn't have a lot of money and sponsors were there, but not really sort of stepping up to where I wanted to be. I didn't have the guts or the self-value to say, this is what I'm worth. So anyway, So I'm going down, I'm putting pressure on myself. I feel like this is important, you know. And if I don't make any money here, I'm not sure if I can go back to Whistler this year. All right. So I'm like, fuck, okay. So anyway, I go there, and then I think DCP at the time told me that whenever you see double digit on the clock, it's because things are going well, or you make a wish, right? So going to that trip, man, I would see it like every day, like 5-6 times a day, like 222, 111, and then it was building up. You're doing it right. This is good. There's some things good happening. You know, keep going, whatever. There's that constant reinforcement. And looking back, it was my unconscious mind going, "Hey, this is a thing here. Every time it comes on, I will tell you to look." Right? I wasn't consciously doing it, but it was like something was like boom, boom. It wasn't a coincidence. It was me doing it. But then in the process, I was convincing myself that things were working out. And then I had like this Eminem song, like Rabbit Run, I think.
Oh, yeah.
I was on loop, man. On loop, just like, you know, it's like kind of aggressive. It's like, I don't remember. You can play it sometime later, but it's like powerful. It's like I'm doing this shit. And I would listen to it and have shivers and I'd be like, fuck, I just got so pumped up, you know. But when I got to the track, as it usually happens, it's like you kind of start relaxing because you're snowboarding and all that stuff goes out and you're just reacting to what's in front of you. And I don't know why, but I guess my focus was making some money. Like I just, it was weird because I was telling, you know, I had that statement of winning, but really in the back of my mind, what I really wanted was to make some money. Like top 5, fuck it, I'll take it. I just need some cash, right? So the events happened and all the guys are there, like fucking huge lineup, like except for Sean White. Maybe that was maybe my luck. He wasn't there, but the lineup was complete. All the guys were there.
Name 2.
Eddie Wall.
Like, was Kevin Jones still competing?
No, I don't think Kevin Jones was there. Josh Dirksen was still riding there. Danny Cass, Scotty Arnold. I don't think Marco was in that event.
Was like Niemela or Ika or Aero Edela?
Yeah, some of those guys were there. I can't remember. Benji was there for French Canadian was there with Renaud Bellil was there, but other big guys. Why did I forget their names now? But one I'm trying to say is the Burton guy who passed away, the rail rider.
Jeff Anderson.
Jeff Anderson was there. Anyway, there was a big lineup. Sorry if I don't remember all the names, but big jumpers too. And then there was 2 lines, a bigger jump line with a bit less flow and a smaller jump line with more flow. And I was like, man, I'm just going to do my thing here. I'm failing this line. I'm just going to block everything out. I don't care what the fuck everybody else is doing. This is what... So I really was able on that day to go, I want to make some money. So let's just focus on what I do well and let's do it well, right? So I had some rail skill at the time that was maybe, you know... I was never the best at anything, but I was good at wrapping things together, I think. So I had a cool line. I qualify. I had a good run. And I thought, man, I got a chance. You know, I fucking got a chance here. And fair enough, I wait, and then I'm the winner. You know, like, and look, some guys had some sick runs. They just didn't put it together, right? So it was a bit of luck. But, you know, you have to make your own luck. So I went, like, I think it was like 10 or 12 grand US, which was like 18, 19 grand Canadian. That was it. Truck and sled. I'm off. And that was one of the time in your life you go like, fuck, man, I can't stop. You know, like clearly there's something here. You know, I'm doing the right thing. And all this other stuff, it's just, it can't all be coincidence. You know, we'll just keep doing the same shit. So we're just kind of, that became a bit of sort of my like blueprint. Okay, let's just keep doing that. Let's just keep working, just keep doing the right move, try to keep the positive approach and visualizing and all that. And yeah, that was definitely a milestone in my career. I never even dreamed of going to the X Game. When actually it was invited, it was like, what do I do now? Like that wasn't that was not even part of the plan. I never saw myself as somebody who would go there. I remember once like Dave Kenny told me, "Oh, my dream is going to the X Game." I'm like, man, that's in my mind, that's nice. That's never gonna happen. Not only to you, but to me, you know. And I was there, and I was invited. And I was like, far out. Okay, let's go.
So you got invited to the Vans Triple Crown.
Yeah. And oh, by the way, I was sleeping on the floor. We got a place for you on the floor. Like, thanks, guys. This is great. Great support.
Oh my God. And then you get through the Vans Triple Crown and then you go to X Games. Damn.
Yeah.
Who was on the podium?
X Games? Shaun White.
Damn.
Yeah, Shaun was in that era that he won every single event he entered. That was like, to this day, I think is one of the most underrated achievement ever made by any athletes in the world. That's my statement there for you. Because he was winning half-pipe slope style and he was competing all year. He won every single one of them. And he was wearing the bandana and he was growling when he was dropping in. He was so hungry, and like it was the Tiger Woods of snowboarding. Like everybody thought he's gonna win. The crowd thought he's gonna win. People were thinking, I got no chance. And guess what? It was exactly what people thought it was. It was this woo-woo thing where everybody thinking and goes into the same direction. What else you expected to happen? Same thing with Tiger Woods. He was doing some fucked up shit. Like you look back at some of the stuff he's done. It's like, who fucking does that? Like the shot making he was doing, it was ridiculous. And I believe it was that. It was everybody believed that it was going to be him. The crowd, the players, himself. Well, there you go. We create what we believe in, you know?
I wonder if that energy of that many people can make that happen. So you think about
100%.
if you're fighting and you're Alexander the fucking Great and the entire 50,000 people are about to go head to head and everyone thinks he's going to win.
But the key component is that person at the center of the belief has to be fucking hungry. If they're just like entitled, hey, I'm the best, no. But to be like, I'm going to emulate you guys. What's that word in English?
Humiliate?
Yeah. I'm going to do that. I'm not only going to win, but I'm going to show you like you are shit at what you do because I'm that much better. And I'm going to be showing you, you know. You didn't see his face. He just made this noise and he just charged. It was crazy.
That's
it was. I'm happy I got to witness it. Not so happy I was competing against him. But yeah, it was good for the sport, man. It was good to have somebody doing that. People didn't like it, right? But hey, you're the champ. You're the champ.
Because we're talking about Shaun White affiliated with the Olympics. I thought this was interesting. I don't know if it's fully true. Maybe you can clarify, but I was going up the chairlift with Kevin Sansalone yesterday. And Sansalone said that there was a group of you that were doing some event, jumping through some stuff, and you guys weren't sure where it potentially could go. And it ended up being for the Olympics, and you pulled out because it was with the Olympics. Was that you?
Don't think so.
Okay.
No.
Never mind.
I have a lot of respect for Terrier for pulling out of it. I think we missed the boat on that one, but it's hard to say what we could have done differently.
Yeah, definitely. That in itself.
Because that ship is sailed. I feel like there's no way back now. How can we get control of this whole thing the way it should have been done from the beginning?
I love that you said that, and I often say this: if they contained that box,
yeah.
As soon as that opened, there's no way to close it.
We're entering a big topic
it's like
here.
We owned snowboarding.
Yeah.
You know, it was like snowboarders owning snowboarding, and then now everyone's like, blah, 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 this. I'm like, dude, that got cracked.
There was a lack of leadership in the snowboarding industry. Everybody was out for their own, trying to make a business or a company take off. They were competing against each other. There was no leadership. Terrier tried in his own way, but there was no long term. It's kind of hard to have a long term vision because it was still pretty new and we were figuring it out as we go, right? Having a party along the way. But you're right. I think like that was a move. That was a big move that was missed because if we all went nah, fuck it, what could have happened there? It would have made the Olympics at some point. Guarantee. Maybe not the first 2 years. Maybe the community would have said, well, fuck snowboarders. But down the track, there's too much pull. It's like skateboarding. Like Tony Hawk said it. Skateboarding doesn't need the Olympics. Olympics needs us. And I think it would have been the same with snowboarding if we would have just hung in there. But I think the industry was at a point where it's the opposite. We need the Olympics. Companies felt that. The boarders felt like, no, I'm trying to make my way here. If Bojo, whatever, doesn't, all these other guys don't come and I'm going, I get a crack. And I want to succeed, so I'm doing this for myself, not for the snowboarding industry. Can you blame them? No. But it's still a pivotal point in the history of snowboarding.
Definitely a big one.
Yeah. I don't know what the other ones are that we fucked up, but if there's something else you think of, you can tell me.
Well,
I mean, I can think of a few, but nothing like that's as significant for the landscape.
Yeah, because it is interesting. Like, there's no way in hell I thought skateboarding was ever going to be in the Olympics. And I watch the Olympics. Like, if Team Canada is playing US,
yeah,
but I just didn't feel that action sports makes sense in the Olympics based on my own personal experience to snowboarding and skateboarding and what those meant to me based off who inspired me.
And also from your experience of what the Olympics were. Because as a young kid, you watch the Olympics and none of that stuff is in there.
Well, also just like...
It's just you don't see how they marry together.
I grew up skateboarding and snowboarding, and I live outside of Winnipeg in a town of Oakbank of 1,000 people. Like it was so small.
Yeah.
The group that snowboarded and skateboarded there, it was such a hyper niche group already, and everybody there was like, that skated was a skateboarder.
Yeah.
Like they lived it. They skated every day. They snowboarded every day. And
that sense of community and like belonging and all that was fucking as strong as you can find, right? Like it was hard to find anything stronger than that.
The strongest. And it was also the sickest. You know, it was like the Chad Muska era, like Matt Overall coming to the park with a boombox playing Dr. Dre frontside flipping over the fucking tennis courts. I was like, skateboarding is the coolest thing fucking. And then all those homies snowboarded. Yeah. They'd go to the hill, the same thing. They'd be wearing Forum and DC swag and dub stuff and like bringing the boombox and hiking the box. And you're like, this is the coolest thing ever. And so when I look at like the Olympics, I'm like, there is no affiliation from the Olympics to what I like with skateboarding and snowboarding.
It's a different thing altogether, you know?
It's been so long, and I get that like snowboarding is a points-based, like there's coaches now, like that it's normal. Yeah. So many of my friends have like a coach, and they're awesome. I know a lot of them. They're great. But just for me, I didn't grow up with that background.
Yeah. No, I'm the same. You know, like when the whole Olympic came about, it was hard to... I'd found it hard to know what to think. You know, I didn't qualify, so it didn't really matter. I guess I wasn't as involved in the process. You know, if the slopestyle would have been part of the conversation at the earlier stage where I was in my prime of slopestyle, maybe I would have been more involved in the decision process. And it was never like a thing. And again, it goes back like I was thinking about myself. I wasn't necessarily thinking about I had the future of the snowboarding industry in my mind, but I didn't, by no way, shape or form felt like I was in a position to have any influence.
An interesting thing is for your generation specifically, it was kind of like the style and hucking era was like at its peak because there was so many people who had the best style. Yeah. But then there was a whole generation, there's a whole group of huckers back then.
Yeah, I guess so.
And hucking now isn't really a thing. Like the kids that can do a switchback 16 nose, like, they're spinning fast, but it's not hucking.
No, because you're landing.
They're grabbing the whole way and tweaking the fuck out of their board.
No, the huckers were the guys that would land every now and then by luck. They were the huckers, and they were spinning fast. You know, to me, like now what you see is it's not a hucker. You can technically say it hucks it hard, but you know, if you're consistent and you land the shit, then it's not a huck. It's like a very hard trick to do or a very technical trick. So there's something else. No trick is hard. They're technical. Because once you do it, it's not so hard anymore. That was one of my other little tweak with the brain. I was trying to learn the hack and flip. In my mind, hack and flip was like so hard. And then one summer I was like, there's a gap here in the thinking. That's not working. If you tell something is hard, you're not going to do it. But if it's technical and a little bit more advanced or requires a new set of skill, now it's achievable. And then one day I went up the hill with that thing and I'm like, let's go. I chucked like 25, didn't miss one. Like I went from never doing the trick from like not missing it ever again. Like I missed it, but like that.
How important was the visualization of that trick in order to achieve it?
Again, it's like, there was a lot of work that led to that, but I feel like the point is the story there is that I think I was ready to do the trick like months earlier, but because I had the wrong mental approach, I was like adding a barrier to the achievement. And I was like, I've been ready for this for ages. Like, come on, just do it.
All right, I want to hear 2 of your favorite clips that you've ever filmed. 2 clips that you're proud of.
I was waiting for that question, and I don't know the answer to that.
Hell yeah!
But I think one that keeps coming back. Don't know why, but I think it's a front. It's a weird place to do it. It's a frontside 7 wearing a red jacket on the Hollywood cliff, the one on the right side that's close to the rock. I'm not sure if there's a name for that one. You know the one?
Yep.
Yeah. And it was meant to be going to there was 3 big companies back in the days: Absent, Mack Dawg, and
Standard.
I was filming for Standard that year, but all of the footage got cut. Me, Benji, and a bunch of the boys, and Travis Williams as well. And the footage ended up going into, I think it was a Neil Proto movie.
Yeah, Some Kind of Life.
I think it's the one. Yeah. So there's a little part mixed in with some of Rube shots, I think. And it's supposed to be a frontside 5. And I just over-rotate, but just, I don't know if you could even tell. Maybe some people could that have done the trick before and they know that feeling when you're like in that little position where you keep it going. But, I landed that like it was like freaking butter. And then on that day, I landed 2 more tricks. I got 3 tricks on that day on Hollywood. I've never hit the big one, by the way, but I've hit the guys on the side. So that was a good day because that one shot kind of got the juice going, and instantly you got 2 more shots in the bag. So
I really liked your front 5 that you follow it up with. You land a front 5 after, and then you switch ollie, like you buck off of that bottom bump.
So yes, that one. So that's off the left side.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
nice.
Yeah. That was a good day, and
I've seen that movie a lot.
Is it? You do?
Yeah,
and I was riding
well
as well with Freddie Calber-Martin.
Oh,
yeah, Fred. He was doing the movie of the year, and
I was riding with Freddie. He's like
he's so good. Like free. He was like watching him. I was like, man, I'm a piece of shit. In the backcountry, I can hold my own, and I could most jump. I could land on my feet at least once. That didn't always make the cut because maybe the style wasn't there. But, I think I was all right. But Freddie was so confident, borderline cocky, but then relax. And then he just showed up and just hit shit and just stomp, It was sick. I had his angle, like of his backside 3 off the top of Hollywood from that little platform. And I was like, holy shit. It looked like he was just like cruising.
I actually just did a podcast with Blake Moeller, a new kid, BMO, and we actually spoke on that a little bit, just how I always believed that Nicholas and Freddie to some extent were in Nico's shadow. Like there was Nicholas and then there was Gigi and Freddie. Yeah, and they all kind of had the same style. They were all Burton.
I can see that. Yeah, keep going.
No, that's the end of that.
I can see that. I think Freddie didn't have necessarily that personality that really translated on the screen. So yeah, he had that sick style, but I think we never really saw his personality in the footage. Where I think Nico, I felt like we saw his personality, and we also saw. Sorry, who was the other one?
Gigi.
Yeah.
Almost like Gigi got helped out because his first part was in, I think, Destroyer. Or one of the Kingpin movies, and like I think that part kind of made Gigi have a little bit of personality.
Yeah.
I mean, Freddie's part with the most personality was probably like White Balance, but like even still, you're like it's pretty like mellow lifestyle.
And he was really into his like DJing and stuff, And I don't think his track were always the best track to reach people. It's good music, and I think it was often. I think maybe it was his own stuff. Maybe I'm not right there, but I felt like his track weren't the track that really grabbed you. Again, I speak for myself.
I like that you gave a little shout out to Benji and Travis Williams there. I feel like those two for the Whistler backcountry or just Whistler in general, like two heavy hitters.
Yeah, I think Travis and I were like on a bit of parallel paths because we started working with Carlo together, and then he went his way, and then we ended up at the X Games together. We both felt like we got ripped off there. You know, we were the only Canadians in the field. We weren't getting any footage, any TV time. I mean, Travis was in the final twice. He was the only one on both occasions of the whole finalists that didn't get his run showed, or not his all runs. So like they're just like, we're gonna forget about him. We'll put a knot in there. I don't know what happened, but we were both like, what the fuck? Like I actually had the first year I went, I hurt myself, so I didn't compete. In practice, I almost blew my knee. So they gave me a wild card, which I was super pumped on. The next year I went, I had a good run. Like it was stylish, and I thought surely I got 12th, and you needed to be top 10 to make it. And I was like, mate, some of those guys, there's no way. And I'm not gonna name names, but I was like, these American gibbers, man, their runs was not as good as mine. And I had people like Marco and other guys saying, man, that run was sick, you know. And I was like, yeah, it was, wasn't it? I just had like and I've run that thing in my head so many times too. I had like a gap to like lip slide, and I swapped around to a cab 7. That I had the most perfect switch method I've ever done in my whole life. Like the perfect switch method. I've never felt anything so sick. I was like, fuck yeah. You know, you think like style will count, whatever. And nobody was doing like straight edge or whatever. And then I had like a switch backside 5 shifty, which kind of shifty again was not necessarily like super like the thing. I think some people I think shifty kind of comes and goes, right? I think early it was there, then it went away. So I was doing a bit of that. Then I had like a front, back to regular. Yeah, front 7, and then backside 5 shifty. So I had like the whole switch, you know, both side thing, right? The cab 7 and the front 7 and the switchback 5 and the backside 5 and the switch method. And I thought, fuck, this is a sick run. Like it was like nailed, like perfection, good style. I felt like I got ripped off that day. It was a bum. And then you couldn't, you know, I knew that I was not going to re-qualify because it wasn't necessarily at that point, it wasn't my focus. If I would have made the final, I would have gone back. But,
is that the year with the huge A-frame?
Don't think so.
I just remember Jeff Anderson being like the only one.
No, the only thing I remember was that on the right side, there was like an up flight down, and Sean was the only one like kind of doing the big gap. He was doing a big frontside 270, you know. And this is when I realized, okay, well, if you're going to go to contests, you got to put the style aside and accept the fact that you got to go for the big shit. And it was kind of at the time where I was starting to move away from competing.
Well, we just went full circle here to proving my point of I was saying that your generation was either style focused or hucker focused, and X Games back then was like, not all of them, but a lot of kids like myself that were binging that stuff who were idolized like the switch method and stuff. I even was like,
changed.
the people winning back then were the huckers a lot of time. Like the pipe people, like Danny Cass would occasionally win, and Mark Kukoski, and there was definitely some people with great style. But there was a big slew of other pipe riders that were just chucking. That would chuck a big spin, grab for 1 second, no poke, and I'm like, this, like, now it's not really like that, but your generation had some wild cards back then.
And I think that's what I said earlier, man. The conversation around the state of the sport or the industry, whatever you call it, like, it's a big conversation because it's not perfect. You know, there's definitely things that are not perfect. And at the same time, it's freaking awesome because it's like evolving so much, and like in the level and the opportunities and the platforms, you know. But for me, what it always goes back to is like, well, who's making the rules? I'm asking you, who's making the rules about how things should go?
The industry. And then everyone's like, what's the industry? And everyone's like, we don't know.
It's just, it's individuals, right? It's like when like, again, it takes balls, right? To go, no, fuck, this is not what it is. And to go out and like make it different, you know, like it takes a lot of effort and time and money to have an actual statement that has a massive impact. Otherwise, you're looking at drip feeding, drip feeding. I mean, you do your part, you sort of mentor a few guys, you hope they're gonna, that works as well, but it's a longer, but to have a big impact in a career, like it takes a lot of discipline and work, and not many people can do that. Travis did it because he's a freak, right? A few people have done it, but the industry is the way it is because we made it that way.
Yeah.
And nobody else is to blame but us. If you don't like it, well, it's either you just try to do something different or you accept whatever it is, One thing, for example, that I did, and I'm to blame, right? Like everybody else is, like when the rail came and suddenly like you were hitting like dry stairs, like what the fuck was that? That's the worst trend in the history of snowboarding. Why would you even do that? That's not snowboarding. That's like a stuntman trying to prove himself to the world that he's got bigger balls than you. Like, I don't care. But I was doing it. Like, oh, I'm going to get a shot, like if you're going to get a shot before it snows, I'm going to be ahead, and 1 or 2 in there, it's going to be good. Like, it was stupid. You can't, like, you scratch your board after one try, and now what? You got to get this, and it's not designed for that.
Oh, I don't. I'm all about the snow and the stairs to some extent. Just clear the back so it looks like a staircase. That's good.
Make it look cool. There's still consequence, but if you're gonna fall down the stairs down like a 30 set, it's gonna happen. I mean, who gets it first try? On a 30 set, so you fall in the stairs. You're bored. If it board scratch every time you fall, like, what's the point? I don't see it. And then I was part of the problem. Like, I kind of went along with it for a little while there. And I realized, I think fairly quickly that I was over it, but then it continued. And the industry was still backing it up. Hey, this is so sick. No, man, it's dumb. It's dumb.
Yeah, because, at that time, JP and Jeremy kind of had, like, the rail game. Like, it was JP and they were, like, bone dry stairs. You know what I mean? That they were into it.
Yeah, but they were still, I don't remember them having like arena, like fake snow brought to a spot and having a patch at the top and a patch on the bottom. I think they always did it in the winter, from what I remember.
For the most part, yeah.
For the most part.
Yeah.
And look, they had massive influence on the whole industry, but that was one thing I was like, I don't get it. Like, why do I have to glorify like the dry stairs? Like, it's still gonna hurt like fucking hell if you fall down the stairs with a bit of snow on it. Like, you're still gonna bruise,
I agree with you. I like when there's big personalities in snowboarding that make big impacts.
Yeah.
And they shift snowboarding to like the right direction.
Yeah.
I feel like Mike Rankwit had and Chris Roach for a while had big personalities and they made a big scene about like the Olympics and chucking too much. I mean, Scotty Whitlake, Mark Frank, who you got to film with a bunch, Danny Cass, like people with big personalities that like came into snowboarding and I think helped shifted it in the right direction. Yes. And I feel like, LeWiff and Jed, and there's a new generation of people that are doing that. And it's super important for there to be the top pros to help kind of give it that nudge to keep it snowboarding. So when you're in Australia and you check up on it, you're like, fuck yeah, still proud of that thing. Like, it's sick. Like, you don't want to watch it in 15 years and be like, what the fuck happened to that?
Yeah, I'm obviously very disconnected from the industry now. I see like what happens online. I just don't know anything about the back end. I don't know about the numbers. I don't know about the contracts. I don't know about, the way they measure marketing. Like, I mean, that's a big thing, right? How do you measure it? Like, it's hard. I've thought about this many times. Then when I was snowboarding, at one point I was like, what's the point of this? Like, seeing like all this shop is full of like rags with logos on it, and every year they get new rags with new logos, and I was like, what? And how do I know like the impact that I have or the impact that the marketing has, on the actual physical sale? When somebody buys something, why did you buy this? Because the shop guy told you? Because it was cheaper? Because you like the professional rider, or because you like the team, like the graphic? There's so many things that goes into a decision, and I don't know, do we have the mechanism in place now to know what really drive somebody to buy? I don't know. Do you know that?
I mean, to me, I feel like snowboarding is trying too hard to know that
measure it?
answer
Yeah.
definitively,
Yeah.
and they put too much weight on that.
Yeah.
So like for
Yeah.
me right now, what I think is misleading a lot of people is followers. Of
Yeah.
course, there's
No,
there's
I've
some
heard you say that. Yeah.
there's some
agree.
people that have a big following,
Yeah.
massive following, that have a massive impact.
Doesn't
you know what I
mean
mean?
doesn't mean they influence the purchase.
Yes, but there's also people with massive following that don't influence the purchase.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
There's people with super small followings that have
Influence.
3,000 followers that have an
Yeah.
influence on the purchase.
Yeah.
And brands, most of them they're
So-
pretending it, they're not guilty of it, but they're all just like,
Yeah.
this is how many views you're getting. This is how many views. They just look at that, they collect that, they punch the numbers, and they go like,
Yeah.
or like, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's tough because there's some people that have less views but more of an impact.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that brands shouldn't be like aware of getting their product in front of a lot of people.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that in the scale of like, if you have 8 team riders, 4 of them can be the chill dudes who don't do social media that much. And then you
Yeah.
can have 4 social
yeah.
media warriors and round your team
Yeah.
like snowboard brands used to be. There
And
was a
then-
well-rounded
yeah.
team.
And then there's trends, and then one company does one thing, and then the other company thinks they should do the same thing. Is it a bit like that where people are kind of like trying to innovate, but really just kind of staying like somewhat in the same direction?
Yeah, I mean, every once in a while, I work with a bunch of great team managers.
Yeah.
I work with a bunch of great brands, and it's about lining yourself. It's about lining yourself up with brands that you back. And when you're a young kid, maybe don't take the first paycheck as much as if I had a big piece of advice to the younger generation is when you're young, 18, 19, pick all of your dream sponsors and rep the shit out of those companies.
Yeah.
And then you will be on all of your favorite companies.
One of the things I felt I did was I was too loyal. I had this thing about being loyal to my sponsors, and it's like, fuck bullshit. Like, it's a business. You're allowed to go somewhere else. And back in the day, a good example was Sullivan. Like, Sullivan was like, they're just trying to come in and grab the money, and they're still here. They somehow they did some things right. They've hired the right people. They must have done some good things. But back then, no, you couldn't do that. You were a sellout, And that was just an example of like a barrier that we put there that wasn't even real in the end. We just made it up because, I don't know, we were trying to control what's going on and just show that, I'm cooler than you because I'm writing for this company and that company. And I felt like I had this sense of having to write for a company that I believe in. And believe in what? In the marketing that you've been fed? Like, you don't know the people behind there who's working like this. Because what I see is that the snowboarding is doing great, in my view, because it's blowing up everywhere. It's everywhere, there's all these fucking crazy riders, there's all this social stuff. Guys have a longer career than we have to. Like, the level is crazy, right? And there's so many platforms. So I see like an industry that is good, but I also hear that it's breadcrumbs, And at the end of the day, what I hope that's happening is that companies and, the industry leaders are try to have an influence where the main focus is to look after the sport and the athletes that you choose. You should take like the decision of picking a rider seriously. Like, it's not like I'm going to babysit this guy for a year and see what happened and then for him to fuck off if I don't like it. Like, it should be like a parent decision. Like, we're going to support the fucking shit out of this guy because he's good. Doesn't have to be the best. We like who he is as a person. We like what he's doing on the side to support the industry, like you are, for example. And then we're going to support that person, like, no matter what, And if there's a year that he's fuck, we're going to be there for that year. And we're going to find a way to keep marketing the branding in the sport using whatever he's doing, So I don't know if this is happening, but I feel like this is what... We're not here to please everybody. Like, this... Okay, yeah, fair enough. Like, sorry, you can't be a snowboarder. Not everybody can. Like, I feel like it's like... I don't know if it's true, but it feels like we're trying to give everybody a chance, but along the way, nobody has a real chance. because it's just spread out thinly across the board, and it's like it just takes people that are willing to give away a few of their life to a passion that may not even bring any financial gain. But again, we're talking like we're mixing passion and money, which could be a bit tricky. So, because it's hard to navigate that space. Passion, creativity, and money and time frame. It doesn't necessarily go well together all the time.
And it's tough when you're trying to speak to the industry as a whole. Like, we're having a discussion for the industry, and like I was saying before, like, what is the industry? Like, is it the snowboarders, the riders, the photographers, the filmers, the brands, and all of those people, and then all the outside people? Or are we just talking to like team managers right now and the people?
No, to me, the industry is everybody who's invested and has an influence potential on the buyers. The buyers are part of the industry, but they're the end people that consume something, right? To me, the industry is the people that puts the sport on the map. The ads, the performance, the events, that's the industry, the output. And I would like to hear good stories, from athletes that were supported and that went at an amazing career, and I get it. It's hard. People get older, get injured, new talent comes, and you want to help them out, and it's not an easy answer. Like, it's by all means. But yeah, it takes people like you that cares, that consider the decision that have to be made and think about that bigger stuff as well.
Yeah, sometimes I think I care too much. I'm like,
what is that? There's also that. I think it's natural, and people get hung up sometimes on like old memories of how it used to be. And
I think I'm doing a good job of branding airtime as like, I'm excited about the future.
Yeah.
I fuck with the present, but I will never bail on the lineage of snowboarding. Like, I fuck with the history, and I refuse to be like these old magazines that are all in here and these videos and the covers and the people that came before us and what they did and how they shaped snowboarding is no longer important or relevant. Like, the story that I want to tell is like, they are the reason why we are here, and I refuse to not have them involved in the future and forever involved. Like, like that's so it's such a fucking, when you see that people are just trying to like just be like, yeah, it doesn't really matter about all you gatekeepers and stuff. It's like, dude, there's a reason why fucking Peter Line is the shit, and Devin, and if you're just, and Scotty Whitlake, and like, if you're just gonna like remove those figures and be like, no, they're not important because we are important. It's like, no, you're not. No, you're actually not. Like, the shit that Noah Slasnik did. The only reason why anything ended up cool is because of someone like him. And like Terry Kidwell riding in a fucking ditch and inventing a trick. Like, if you just forget about that, like, I don't want to forget about that.
I agree. I think there's a lot of richness to the history, and without, claiming that history is everything, you have to keep it alive,
I mean, that's all aspects of life to some extent, is remembering the history. But moving forward here, so growing up, you're a young kid from Quebec. You move out here, you start doing some pipe, you do well at the X Games, film for multiple videos, turned pro on Nitro. Who, when you turned pro, were you like alongside? Like, who's the team?
I remember thinking a lot, because I was on like one track snowboard. Mike Page, Dave Kenny, little brand, right? But they never went anywhere. But I think, I'm not sure if they were folding, or I could see there was no future there. So it took a long time to think about what I was doing, and it wasn't easy. I think some of my filter was like, cool brands, like don't be a sellout. There was a bit of that. So without criticizing that, I was looking for the right fit. I didn't know for sure what was the right fit, but I remember basically having to decide between Forum and Nitro. And the Forum entry would have been not pro, but like just the entry, right? So I was talking to Chris Nichols, and he was like, "Oh man, you should come along. We see what we can do." There was no promises there other than maybe having a crack. And you're gonna like that one. I think I would have had the what do you said?
Imposter syndrome.
I think I would have had that syndrome going with Nacho, and I felt like it wasn't the right fit for me.
Or going with Forum?
Yeah, I felt like that's not me. Like, how am I supposed to step into that space? You know, I didn't see myself, and I saw Forum as like the ultimate just snowboard team, you know, on the level that I didn't see myself being able to match at the time. I didn't feel like I would be nurtured. I felt like I would be going into competitive mode. I just didn't have the right feel. I was honored that I wasn't even offered, like, but my brain really struggled to put me and Forum together. So I put that aside, and I think I like what Nacho was doing at the time. Lucas, Shane, Shandy, the boards, the ad campaign, the thought, you know, the thought that the owners were snowboarders. I like, and I also could see that there was a place for me. That, you know, there was, I think Tyson Camordy as well was on there. Was Rube on there? I think it might have been, but I could see there was a gap for like a rail rider, because there was a thing, right? Rail came in and it became like a real thing. Every team had at least one rail rider or a couple, right? So there was a gap there. I was like, okay, I could bring something to that team. And I know the guys, I like the vibe. It's Canadian, there's European, you know, there's like a backcountry feel into it that I also want to strive towards. I just don't want to be just a rail guy, you know. I've always wanted to be a well-rounded snowboarder. I wanted to be able to just ride whatever was in front of me. So I never wanted to like pigeonhole myself into one category. So anyway, I felt like Nitro was a good place. I actually had a knee surgery while I was trying to look for a sponsor. So yeah, I approached Shane. He put a word in for me. I put like a sponsor me types of package, whatever. I even like wrote down like a budget of what I was asking for, which like fucking peanuts. Like I remember like my team manager years later told me like he laughed when he received my proposal, you know. But anyway, so they gave me a chance, you know, and I got in, and I guess like any other pro rider does, you know, they have a good year and then another one, and then slowly, you know, I end up on the pro team. Like I don't know what year it was, but I remember seeing like Vegas trade show. It was like Arrow, me, Lucas, and
Mark Frank.
No, not Mark Frank yet. It was before. Andrew Crawford.
Oh.
Crawford was on the team. So it was the four of us. And then I was like, what the fuck? I'm like at the trade show, it's like I'm one of those four guys. I just felt kind of weird, like, and really like I was humbled. It was a little bit of an imposter, you know, like really? It's like there's four guys on the team and I'm one of them. And I felt bad for like Tyson who got dropped, and then Shane who got dropped along the way. And I was a bit like, yay, but like, hey, whoa, okay, weird. But I tried to not let it get to me, and I just kind of kept focusing on my boarding as much as I could. But yeah, they were great for all these years. The ending was a bit shit, but I don't blame them completely. You know, I was pretty banged up. Like it was, I was the only one not seeing the writing on the wall. Like you're done. You know, like you're clearly hurting. You've tried for 2 years to get back on your board. It's not working. Like it wasn't done in style. It wasn't done professionally, but it was still the right decision that they've made. It's just they could have done it with a bit more grace, is what I can say. So that's a snapshot of the career right there, from how it started and how it ended, and somewhere in the middle, being on a pro team, on the global team.
Was there like a career highlight in that pro years?
The Saas-Fee trip were amazing. You know, we're going to the summer camp in Saas-Fee, and it usually would be like a halfway through the Camp of Champion. I would go over there and just hang out with the whole team and just ride the glacier and just be in Europe, and that was pretty cool. They did a good job at doing that, bringing the whole team from around the whole world together for a couple of weeks and just shredding. You know, it wasn't too serious. It's a bit of drinking, a bit of partying. Yeah, that was pretty cool. Yeah, I mean, there's so many highlights, but that's just one thing that stood up.
All right, let me ask you this. So I kind of forgot to place this in the middle, but we got tracked. We were flowing. K2, a big supporter of myself and this podcast. Thank you so much for supporting the show. I'm riding the Alchemist right now, 157. I love it for everything on the mountain, and I've been riding in the park a lot with it lately. It does everything. It's my favorite snowboard I've ever ridden. If you're looking for something that destroys everything, the Alchemist, I highly recommend it. If you have any questions, shoot me a DM. All right, a couple questions here. We got 8 questions.
Before we go to the question, I would like to say thanks to all your sponsors for supporting you and the amazing work that you've done for snowboarding, both on the slope and in the boot. Because I saw you coming up as a kid, and you grinded it, man. Like, you earned your spot, yeah? You're critical on yourself, but you have more than earned your spot. You've done some freaking cool shit with the Man Boys. That was, like, innovative at the time, right? It was well placed in the slot there of time and the change in the industry. So, thanks to your sponsors. Keep it up, boys.
Well, that hit me in the feels. Thanks, man. I love you, dude. That means the world. Thank you so much. Fuck yeah. I never thought you would say that. That's why I'm like, for me, looking up, like growing up in Winnipeg, getting here, watching things like Bandwagon and stuff, like what you helped create. I would like.
It is hard to have a true appreciation for your own achievement. To be able to look at yourself from an outside perspective is very hard to do. I think we all, have this more internal representation of what we've done, right? But it's important to hear it from other people. And yeah, I think what you've done is amazing, man. Like it's like, it's smart, it's effective, it's influential, it's meaningful, and it's in line with, I think, what most snowboarders believe the industry should be about.
Yeah, yet again, I just like for Etienne Gilbert to be on my fucking podcast being like, great fucking job means a lot. It does. Cause like everybody, when you snowboard for a long time or do anything for a long time, the more you know, the less you know. And so I've always kind of had imposter syndrome. You know what I mean? Like I've grown up in a town like Whistler for 20 years and riding alongside when I first came to Whistler, people like Matt Belzil, E-Man Anderson, Andrew G.
And
it's
look,
like
the imposter syndrome, I think, I think it's normal. I think everybody has it. I don't think it's a bad thing. You don't want, as long as you don't get too caught up. I mean, I felt like this throughout my whole career, like literally, like to the very end. Even when I was offered to go film for Mack Dawg, you think I felt like I belonged there? I was like, fuck no. Like throughout my whole career, I was like, okay, but that's good. Like you don't want to be the best. I think. For me, one of the main reasons why I got to where I was is because I was good at putting myself with people that were better than me at various things. And you learn from them, and you try to incorporate what you're learning. So, yeah, no wonder I felt like an imposter because I was.
Same. Yeah. Totally. All right. When I say blank, say the first thing that comes to your mind. Pop.
Okay. Rube had great pop, man, for back in the days. Yeah. Not on every tricks, but he definitely had some good pops. Yeah, there's so many. Guy Deschênes was like another guy that was not really... Do you know who I'm talking about?
Oh, yeah.
He was known for, I think there was a window there where his pipe riding stood out, like big air to fakies, and he was doing some of the first frontside 1080s. He didn't grab his, but I remember riding once with him, high speed, switch, I'm like thinking, God, I'm going fast, switch, and he just crank the biggest like switch backside 180 off a roller at like whatever, as fast as I could ride. Huge pop. The board is, it was one of those things that just slowed down. Like, it was like, and I was like, what the hell's going on here, And you see him all in, he's like, the board is like flexing and he lands. I'm like, fuck, what happened? It's just a simple thing, but like, I was like, okay, that's another reason why I feel like an imposter, because he clearly has a lot more ball control than I do. But yeah, I think he had a good pop, because you needed good pop back in the days because we didn't have the same vert, right? So if you didn't pop off the lip on the quarter pipe or in the half pipe, you were out the deck. Now, if you pop too hard, you go to the flat. But like he was good. That's why he was good at going big, because you could pop like a, madman.
That was amazing. 180.
Devin Wash.
Flow.
Nicholas.
Frontside air.
DCP.
Coolest snowboard company of all time.
The word that came into my head was forum, but it's funny because I had a love and hate with forum, as I explained a bit earlier, right? But they did a lot of things right. They did a lot of things right. I'm going to give it to them.
COC.
Oh, Wes Makepeace. Man, I remember one day we were having lunch or something, and he gets his guitar out and he starts singing one of his songs. I think it was To Whom It May Concern. And man, I was like vibing. It was like one of those moments in life when you look at where you are and you think, this is fucking amazing. I had the shivers on my arm, and I just stood there looking at him and looked around. I was like, this is amazing. All the people having a good time, living the dream. COC was sick. You were there. It was something special, man, for many reasons. I'm very lucky I got to get in there. Thanks to, I think it was Andrew Hicks, session rep at the time. He got me in there. Thank you, buddy.
When was your first time at camp?
I'm going to say 2001. I think at first we were just getting in to do some filming with Carlo. But every time we'd gone in, I would make a point of shoveling something. I just shovel my ass off. I just get in there. I have a session with Carlo, film a couple things, whatever, and then just go to the diggers and just help. One, because I like shaping, and two, that was my way of saying thank you. And I think it was kind of part of the agreement, if you're going to come and use the setup, like contribute. So that would have been 2000, 2001. Pretty early on, I was able to access the stuff, and then became a coach, and then the head coach for a couple of years.
Yeah, I feel like that was almost like more ingrained in
it was
society and people to pick up a shovel.
Yeah.
It like people are getting more and more like, well, that's not my job.
Well,
where like everybody in the 90s, if you wanted a good pipe, needed to pick up a fucking shovel.
Yeah.
And since then, you're like, you just go to a park now, and if it's not good, you just yell. You're just like, fuck, where's the comment? You just DM on Instagram, like, your park sucks, you're a fucking loser. And you're like, Jesus Christ, dude. Like, Cowboy42 just DM'd us that he fucking hates us.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, no, that was like, to me, like, Camper Champion was another, like, massive, like, cultural thing. Like, just connecting with all the borders, we were all on different schedule in the winter, but in the summer we all came together, rode hard, work hard, party. It wasn't always serious, to be honest. Like, the camp got a little bit more serious over the years for good reason. It became more professional. But just the whole journey and how the camp changed over the years that I was there. Man, so many good memories. Amazing.
All right. If you could add one person to the Forum 8 that wasn't on the Forum 8, who would you add?
What a question.
The same time frame.
Because there was a thing, right? There was the Forum 8.
There's the Forum 8.
So
and then,
who was the Forum 8 at the time? Do you know? Because there was a thing at one point, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was JP, Yoni Malamy, Devin Walsh, Peter Line, Jeremy Jones, Chris...
I know the 7, but because it was at one point there was a thing. It was a professional thing from what I remember. They were like, who's going to be the 8th?
Oh, and the 8th was who?
I don't know. That's why I thought you knew that. Am I wrong?
I didn't know it was Forum 7 to Forum 8. I always just thought it was Forum 8. But
or 9th? Oh, fuck, I don't know. I felt like there was a time where they introduced an extra rider, and it was a big thing. Like, who is it going to be?
Was it Duff?
Maybe it was Duff. Don't know. Anyway. So the question was,
if there was like somebody in that time frame that you would add to that team from the same era that you were like, that guy could have fucking excelled if he got that same opportunity. Because anybody on the Forum 8 got the opportunity to film for the Resistance, True Life.
Well, I think I'm going to have to go with what we know now.
I like it.
Okay, if you look at what we know now, you look at Mikey Rance. dude, I met Mikey. He was like 12 years old or something. I don't know. He's been on the same team like ever since he started boarding. Like, who has done this? Who has lasted that long and kept being relevant for so many years on so many levels? And everybody says he's the best dude to work with, you know? Like, pretty legendary, I reckon. Like, from what I'm seeing from the outside and from what I'm seeing when I was in the business to what he's done since I stopped, which was like 15 years ago. Dude, I stopped boarding 15 years ago here, and he's still going at a pretty crazy pace. So you're looking at the forum team and what, you know, the energy around it. I mean, Devin and Duffy were the two Canadians, but Mikey could have add some juice to that. I'm not sure if he would have been right fit for him. Like me, maybe he would have not seen himself as that, but the kid had skill, style, and clearly work ethic.
I feel like if I was Mikey, he probably just idolized like Trevor, Andrew, you know, that whole Burton crew.
Yeah.
You know, Roman, JP Solberg, like the people that were just above him there. And I mean, he definitely idolized the forum team. I feel like he could have went either path, and Burton was the path.
But he could have brought a flavor that would have added to the forum team, right?
If he would have went to forum, though, if we follow what happened,
I know
it would have ended.
I know,
and then he would have been like, "Fuck."
Yeah.
Or maybe forum would have never ended because something would have changed. The ripple effect, the butterfly effect.
I'm just very impressed with the level of backcountry riding that Mikey has reached, you know, since I retired.
All right, the last question is one trick that was always scary to you.
The back rodeo. I filmed one, and in my first year of filming, I think 99 or 2000, and it's on tape somewhere. That's why I was asking earlier about where that Phantom VHS is, because it's on that tape and I want it because it's the only one I've ever filmed. I've never really built up from that one time where I landed it. I would have liked to do like 7s and back rodeo 9s. They still to this day my favorite trick to look at, and everybody has a slightly different way of doing it. They just look so sick to me.
All right, I got 2 more questions for you, and then we'll go into the final round here. Because I feel like you have such good advice, what's a couple easy steps in which somebody can live a better life?
I've already said it earlier, actually. For me, the easiest thing is to just focus on your daily routine. Make your daily routine work for you. Make sure you smell the roses. Make sure that you inject meaning into your everyday life. Purposely inject it. Don't just wait for it to show up. Make a decision. Today's going to be special. And just come up with a bunch of shit why it is. And then just go with it.
See, that's why we asked you that question. That was incredible. It was a 10 out of 10.
Right. If you are struggling in life, you know, or a time in life you're struggling, one good tip I can say is just go and read A Man's Search for Meaning. You know, guy stuck in the Holocaust time, you know, and he literally like finds a way to write his thoughts and what he lives every day while he's stuck in there for like, I think 3 years. And the sheer level of bullshit and horror like the guy experienced. And he talks about putting meaning into your life. Because his thing was like, if there's no meaning and no hope, you were dying. I saw it. Everybody that lost hope and lost meaning died, or some people killed themselves, right? Because they were like, what the fuck is this? I'm not living another day to be beaten and starved and, you know, slaved. So his book is about find a way to make it mean something. And I think there's value in there.
I agree. I've read that book. It's incredible.
Crazy story.
Great book.
I mean, the things human can endure and go through is freaking wild. Like I don't think we can appreciate how resilient we are as a species or as an individual. You know, because we all think, oh man, I don't think I could deal with this. But if it happens to you, the will to survive is very strong. When my dad was sick, like really sick, I was like, Dad, you can go, mate. It's fine. Like, you know, you don't have to hang in there. You know. But for him, even if he had like a minute a day where he was clear and there was somebody next to him he can talk to and he was getting pleasure into this, that was enough to keep him fighting, to keep the power, the will to live is very strong. Yes, some people, you know, take their own lives, and that's very sad. And some people may say that these people are weak, but it's probably the opposite. You know, they're probably pretty resilient to live until the day they decided to end their lives. But I do think that we are very resilient and that we adapt to what's around us. That's why we've been around for so long, you know, and that's in us. Yeah.
I always kind of have this thing, like this picture deep in my head of like somebody in my lineage, like walking through like a bog with no energy left, and they just didn't fucking quit. And they made it out of that bog, and then they met a girl, and then they had sex, and then bazillions of years later, I exist because that motherfucker did not quit.
Yeah.
Like my grandfather fought in World War II.
Yeah.
Didn't talk about it at all because it was fucking nuts.
Yeah.
I bet you there was times there that were just unbelievable and just didn't fucking quit.
When there's no other option, right? Like, yeah, I love it. Like, I just you know what? There's no other option. Sometimes quitting is good. Sometimes you can suggest that I didn't quit. I just changed values and focus, you know. Again, the way you approach it, you can call yourself a quitter. No, I didn't quit. I started something new. But I think you're right. When there's no option, and just to keep grinding and just like literally like just will it out, that's amazing, you know. And there's so much to respect. And I think you might have said that before, but like I often think like it's my duty to live a good life because all these people suffered. I mean, the way we live like king and queens, dude. Like go back 500 years ago and then show them the way we're living and they'd be like, what? And you were like, you're middle class and you live that way? What the hell, dude? Like it's our job to just make it count, make something out of it. It's not always easy. Like I said, we all fucking like have really dark days. And I think that's part, you know, that's the deal. You have to go through it. But yeah, you know, people like your granddad, I don't believe in war, but like the people that went, they've dealt through some shit, and then, you know, let's just make it count. You know, let's thank them by the way we live.
I mean, there's the least amount of war on this planet.
Yeah.
Ever.
Yeah.
There's the most amount of clean drinking water ever.
Yeah.
I don't think people realize that like 200 years ago, the reason why people were just absolute alcoholics is because they had more faith in the booze than they did in the water they were drinking. Like the famine, the plagues, like the fact that the most places, first and second world countries, have like the poorest have still a roof over their head. They have a shower of some, and they can have access to water and some kind of food. And there's a program or like that didn't exist. People would just be like, I didn't figure it out. I just died in the woods alone.
And even now, like we're so used to traveling to countries that are like ours. You know, like you travel boarding here, you go here. It's all places that have a similar life. But then if you look at the stats, like the way we live is like we're the top 10% of the whole planet. Like we live like the top 10%, and we think it's like the normal stuff. No, it's not normal. The way the pure sheer abundance of stuff that we have, food, resources, whatever, it's just crazy.
Oh yeah, especially when you go to like a third world country. I'm just saying, it's for context, I feel like we live in the best time ever, like the whole planet does.
Yeah.
But there's still a bunch of people who are fucking suffering.
Yes.
So how grateful are we?
Man.
And you often forget that when you get up with your flat screen TV and your shitty car. You're like, my car is not awesome. It's a 1997. It's like, that car is fucking amazing. It drives you around. You can put a cassette tape in there. Listen to fucking Dude Ranch on the way to work. Stop at a fast food joint and get whatever the fuck you want. You have the choice to eat that shitty food, or you can make a home cooked meal for actually a lot of money. This shit's expensive. And on that note, if you're a Patreon member, we fucking love you.
We do.
Okay, we got 10 more questions here.
Oh, okay, let's go. Jeez, I thought it was done.
Oh yeah,
I love it. Don't keep it going, man.
Well,
I love a good chat.
The K2 one was supposed to be in the middle.
But you know what? Like, when is it? Like, because I've been like looking forward to this, and it's cool. Like, when is it you get to chat these days? And it's kind of silly because it's a show, and maybe we should do it more often. But like socially, it's pretty rare that you sit down with somebody and you just kind of drill into things, right? I love this shit. I mean, I could do it all day long. Too tired. Second question, go.
First question: best style currently and back in the day.
Back in the day, I'm gonna have to think about who had the biggest impact with style. Was Peter Line by a long shot for me. Nowadays it's hard because there's so many people, and I'm not really good at remembering names. I just see something and think, "Fuck, this is amazing." It changes, I was like, one point I thought Arthur Longo was like, "Fuck, this is the best thing I've seen in a while." Then Jake Paul, this is the best thing I've seen in a while. And then,
Blake Paul, Jake, the wrestler, or whatever that guy.
Blake Paul, like awesome to watch too. Like, it's just like, I think now I appreciate the guys that just have something a bit different. I think we were in an era of like, I felt like most people in Canada were trying to be like Devon Wash, for good reasons. But I think there was a time where a lot of people look similar. And I think maybe it's still these days, but I feel like these days I see there's a bit more, the flair is coming back a bit. Maybe the people's stance, I don't know what it is, but I feel like I look at some guys like, oh, this is different. Like Rene, what's his name? The
Rene Renecongas.
Awesome. Like, geez, like, where is this coming from, And, on a couple different angle, like Jed on the rails, like, he would sometime, not all, but you do something, you're like, far out, like, you just can't do it more perfect than that. Like, it's just amazing. Like, what the hell? So yeah, just a lot of good styles right now. It's hard to pick one. Yeah.
Those were great picks. One piece of life advice. I know we've gone through a bunch, but narrow it down to one.
I'm going to say what Lucas Hoffman told me once. He said, just keep breeding. Keep breeding. Just breed.
Yeah, I called my sister the other day, and I was kind of having a mental breakdown just with shit in life, and she was just like, she's like, don't you remember seeing the movie Finding Nemo? Just keep swimming. She's just like, and then we had a funny conversation where it's like, that's what everybody in life's doing. We're all just figuring it out. And if you just don't fucking quit, and if you become, I like the 1% better every day. It's hard to do,
yeah.
But if you can,
it's the little things that you can maintain, right? There's big change, yes, every now and then can be done, but the most realistic way to change your life is just to make some small changes that you can do every day.
I love that. All right, dream vacation.
Oh man, I would have loved to just have a good week of heli boarding in Alaska with some homies that know where to go and just shred. I've never done it. I've been to Stewart on the snowmobiles, but never done the heli in Alaska. Like, that would have been pretty epic.
Best book.
Woo! Okay, I'm gonna have to go to one of the first book that changed me, and I think it was, let's just say one of the first one was the Alchemist.
I haven't read that one.
Classic, man. It's a classic one. I think even more so relevant when you're younger and you try to figure out what to do, and so it's all about like chasing your dreams and having a crack and believing in life and circumstances and coincidence, and the whole like when you create or you manifest. It's a bit of that, but in a nice story. Yeah,
that's such an interesting topic too, because I feel like so many people feel like trapped where they are. You know, you got like, you get the mortgage, you get the kids,
the labels,
and
the identity.
You just like, but then back to what we were talking about is like the 1% change, like the little things, like that morning, maybe get up like half an hour earlier and read a book on like, if you have a fucking complex life, here's how to change your life. 5 easy steps on YouTube. And you're like, and then one thing in there sticks with you and you're like, and then the ripple effect over the course of a couple years can be profound to get you out of that fucking trap that you feel like you're in.
Yeah.
Because I feel like sometimes I feel like I'm in that. I'm like, fuck, I need to get out of this. And I'm like, I'm
so grateful to have this trip right now, right? This is what it's giving me, like, which I haven't had. And it's hard. Like, I'm not going to have this every year. To have 2 weeks away from the family, doing whatever you want. But like, it just takes time and space to reflect, right? Like you can't reflect when you're on the go. When you're spinning the hamster wheel, you don't reflect, you're spinning the hamster wheel. Every now and then you have to get out of the wheel. And if you can't get out of the park altogether and just look in and be like, oh shit, okay. All right, this is what it's in here. Like it's not easy. Like we all know it's important, but to actually be able to take a break, step back from what you're doing and reconsider, like it's when you're in the wheel, the everyday, like for me right now, it's like the family life, the weekly stuff. Like I try to, insert some of those pockets where I can get a bit of time to go take a step back and because you have to do that. Right? You have to go really focus into the detail and pull back out and look at the bigger stuff. And you have to go in, out, in. And I think for me, I tend to get in and then just get stuck there a bit too much. When I was a pro snowboarder, easy. You get the fall. In the fall, it was at the perfect time to reset and step back and have a look. But now with family life, it's like nonstop. It's a little bit harder. So I'm adjusting to that.
I feel like the zoom out is a good one, which I often don't get until the season slows down. It's summertime. You're at the lake with 3 friends and you go to the edge of the dock and you look up to the stars and then you're like, oh shit, I haven't really checked in on that friend in a while. Like, I need to call my mom. Oh wait, that Rogers bill, fuck him. You know what I mean? Like there's certain things in your life that like, I feel like I prioritize the wrong thing sometime in my day to day. And then the little thing, like, like you were saying with your mom there, like, oh, what you're doing with me right now with these 15 minutes is incredible. Like, my mom appreciates the phone call so much, and so does my sister and my dad. And
it's literally the best way to explain it for me is like, think about somebody who puts on weight, for like, let's say 5 years, and they don't have a mirror to look at themselves in. Like, how do you know you're putting on weight unless somebody tells you? Like, it's really hard to pick up. Like, it's just a little bit, right? And next thing you know, 5 years later, you're like, holy fuck, I feel like shit. I'm heavy. I have no energy. What happened? Like, and it could be for physical health. It could be emotional. Like, you could be stacking on emotional pain over 5 years, don't realize. And then suddenly you're like, oh shit, something is not right. It's hard to sometimes be able to just have the ability to look and be like, oh, there's something ticking over here, like every day, then that's what the journey is about, man. I think it's just like inventing, reinventing, healing, helping others do the same shit, Yeah,
nailing the whole pie, as I often speak about, is so hard. Like, to be like, to work on yourself, to like work on like being a good partner to like your friends, your intimate partner, and then to work on your finances, and then to work on your spiritual side, and then to work on your health, and then your fitness, and then you tack all those things on, and it just feels like you're like, fuck, how do I perfect the wheel? And then you're like, wait, perfection is unachievable. Just enjoy the ride and be as good as you can. Just fucking give her a go.
Yeah, that's it, man.
Who had the best tweaks?
Oh, DCP was pretty good at holding his board, and really just, he had a lot of energy, man.
Gnarliest boarder.
Ooh. Well, I'm going to have to give it to Mike. He did traumatize me after all. and also Travis, you know. Travis is just gnarly. I mean, and he's been gnarly for a long. He also traumatized me. He traumatized me at Super Park the year that he back rodeo over that crazy spine. Remember that? It's like in, which year was that?
Transcendence?
I think so, maybe. He does a big back 180 as well. Or Peter does a big back 180 over it.
You did do a back 180 over it. I was thinking about that the other day. I was like, did Travis back rodeo it and Peter back won it? And then I was like, that seems
I'm not
weird.
sure if it's the same day, but that's the year I blew my knee on the hip and I'm busted and I see this guy just back rodeo it. Like, I was like, fuck off, man. You're so good. You're annoying. But no, I didn't know at the time he would become this freaking absolute monster of a boarder. But when he was coming up, you were like, fuck, we're in trouble, boys. He was savage, man.
Just at the top, like drop, no speed check, full straight back rodeo.
The sweet spot was so small on that jump. Like he just had to be perfectly dialed in on the speed and the pop. Like, I don't know how many times he did it. I probably got good first try if I was to guess.
Yeah, that was an iconic Super Park session.
And then it's also at a point I realized, you know, I'm not that kind of guy. I'm gonna have to find a different way because I cannot do that. I'm not driven to do that, you know.
Yeah, there were some boarders that I would ride with back in the day that, like, for example, like Charles Reed was like that for me.
Yeah,
like,
he was ballsy.
Same age as me, and like we would be at events, and I'd be like for you, the first time you saw Mike Michaelchuk, you're like, I have to be that good. That was me seeing Charles. I would be like,
he was good.
I was like, holy, like Tim, like, because the French Connection would come out here. So like Charles Reed, Jason Dubois, Jeremy Kluche, that whole crew would come out here, and they were all so gnarly and good.
Yeah.
And I would be like, damn, these kids, like they could shred.
Yeah.
Like summer camp, Jason, front 10, fearless, big, and it was like day 2 at camp.
Yeah.
Like,
No, they were hungry for sure.
What's the worst band ever?
Worst band?
Yeah, what's one band that comes on that you're like, I can't do it?
What's it called again?
Journey?
No, it was like in the early years of boarding here. I struggled with them.
Offspring.
No. No.
It's all good.
I might come back if I keep going to the next question.
I like the Eminem plug earlier, though. That's from 8 Mile, the movie.
Yeah. It sounds so cheesy when sometimes I re-listen to it. I'm like, what planet was that on? But somehow it just was working.
The right day, and that hits.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, it rains, and your daughters are just being kind of assholes, and you have the roof that you were putting on isn't done, and it's leaking, and you need that extra motivation to keep going. At that time, that song accidentally comes on the radio.
Yeah.
You're gonna go dad beast mode. You're gonna get the roof done. You're gonna figure that shit out with your daughters, and you're gonna be fucking off to the races. What's the CD you played the most?
Well, I don't have CDs anymore. I listen to Spotify. I do go back to some good old Lagwagon.
Nice.
You know, I do go back there like a fair bit. Yeah. And they got some acoustic stuff that, you know, has come out, and I play a bit of guitar now. So, yeah, it's good.
All right, who's the GOAT?
Well, yeah. It's always a tough one for everybody, and sometimes we talk about this in regards to other sport, but I have to come up with 2, I think, they weren't necessarily my favorite style. Like 30 was not my favorite style of rider, but what he did in the early days, how he was part of that early Burton, how the long career he had, the statement he made with the Olympics, the Arctic Challenge, the super pipes, like, and he's never been shy of speaking his mind. So Terry is definitely up there for me, and Travis, I think, for the sheer dominance and abuse that he's put on snowboarding mountains and features, you know, from half pipe to park to. I mean, I don't have to name it. Like, everybody knows that Travis is on a different program. So it has, and again, like I'm never been in love with his style, but you got to respect what he's done. So again, if you think about because I tend to look at GOAT as more as what they've done for the sport versus the style. But at the same time, his style is so important. It's kind of weird, but style is also artistic and it's also personal. So you can't really, argue the fact that 30 has done so much for the sport and Travis, where you can argue who has the best style because it's a personal preference.
Was there anybody that you kind of rode beside or saw during your time frame that you were like, that guy never really got the shine he deserved, or gal?
Well, I'm not really answering your question, but what I'm going to say is that when Louis Paradis was young, everybody had a sponsor and his friend except for him. I think his style was still coming together a little bit. It didn't have always the best style in the early days, even though he had the best trick. And I remember riding with him. I was like, mate, like, don't fucking worry. Like, you're so good. You're going to find something. Just really think about who you want to go with, and just be strategic with who you pick. And we went through a few companies, I think, together about what I thought, he could work with. I can't remember if Salomon was part of the equation, but yeah, I feel like he definitely wasn't getting, and I feel like people knew, like all of his friends knew, we all knew, like, why is nobody's getting this kid? It's just the timing, but clearly he was good enough.
He will forever be underappreciated in snowboarding in my eyes. Because the way I look at it, if snowboarding had a clue, and I say this all the time, Louis would have like 300,000 followers. You know what I mean? If snowboarding, which has moved into the digital world now, you know what I mean?
Well, I agree, but I don't, because the amount of followers you have doesn't depend on that. It depends on how much entertainment you provide.
That is exactly why the amount of followers you have doesn't matter.
Yeah, no.
It's
just one part of the equation. Yeah.
It's just very important for everybody to realize that. And no one forget that Louis's the GOAT. Or one of them. He's been filming some of the best. Yeah. Like him and Jed have been filming some of the best street parts for almost 20 years now. And street is, like, backcountry is one thing where you can kind of like be like, oh, I'm just the flowy pow guy now. And you're like, yeah, sick. But like rails is like, it's steel and concrete.
Yeah, it's a different, it's a crazy space to be in. And I was there a little bit, but to be like focusing solely on rail riding, like some of those guys did, like pretty much solely, like, the guys had a little bit of jumping here and there, but I don't know, they did it, man. I don't have it in me. Like I had to be entertained by different styles of riding. I can't just stay in one style. But I feel like if you just commit to rail riding, it's like far out, man. It's intense.
It is far out.
It's pretty intense.
Favorite rail, these are just bonus questions because I'm just excited. Favorite rail rider from the bandwagon crew?
Oh.
Who was like your dog? You're like, I fuck with that kid's style.
I've always liked Max. Max Bergeron was funny as. I mean, he used to come to the shop and he was so fucking excited, and he was annoying. He's like, oh no, here comes Max. He's like,
I love.
But he
Max
was like,
Pete.
he was his vibe. He was all like passion and funny and I think it's gonna sound bad, but I think he really maximized his potential well. I never saw like Max as this really like strong overall rider. Like he came out here a little bit, dabbled a little bit with the mountain, the backcountry. You can see like he was struggling a little bit. He did his bits, he did some good stuff. But on the rail, he looked really good. He was able to pull some shit that looked really good. And I was like, oh fuck, how did he do that? Because I didn't necessarily like saw him as being that good, but he was clearly motivated and he was smart with knowing what to do and when, and I think he did well. I think I'm very impressed, and yeah, he was fun to be around, and from the early get-go, like he was full of, he had a bit of you actually, just like happy to be part of it, just keen. Yeah.
I was a huge Max B fan growing up. Same thing, I always just loved his style and his approach, and maybe we can leave these amazing listeners with maybe I don't know where this is going to take us, but I feel like because you're a little bit of a sports psychologist, life coach, what do most people come to you with? Like, what are most people like asking you about?
Well, just to clarify, the whole life coaching thing, I did the course. I saw myself as somebody who could do something like that, but then the family pressure came, and I had to provide an income. And the life coaching stuff was more like a long, it would have been a slow drip. So I completely put that aside, but I use the same skills to do all the work that I've done with the young people that I've worked over the years. So like I said, 10 years of working with young kids that are abused, traumatized, neglected, have drug and alcohol addiction, suicidal, self-harm, homeless, or should I say, removed from their families, from the government, because their families can't look after them, and they end up in a program in a home, and we look after them. We're like their home. So I've seen a lot of, we call them at-risk young people, because they're at risk of just disconnecting, not engaging with society, ending their lives or whatever. So what I see the most in that field is the lack of support towards families, because that's where it starts. Mom and dad are fighting, dad is hitting mom, they're doing drugs, or they're just working so much that somebody else cares for them, and the kids are not growing up feeling loved, supported. They don't feel safe to be in the house or be themselves. So, and then they start going to their peers for what they're not getting from their parents or the family circle. And that's a dangerous place, because you go to a peer, somebody else who's got no fucking idea what they're doing, going through the teenage years themselves. And then suddenly they look after each other and they come up with their own. And sometimes it works, but most of the time it doesn't. So it's the whole village mentality, cultural, right? Yes, you had your parents, but your parents cannot be everything for you. You need other adults to be mentors, supports, other people that are in line with your parents or giving you what your parents can't give you, right? So that's what I see the most, is like, I just pick up the crumbs. We just pick up the damage of families not working well. And there's so much money. There's so much money. And if we could give that money to families earlier on and try to keep them together, help them to get their shit sorted, and keep a kid in the home, or make a kid feel more loved and supported, it solves a lot of problems down the track, And it's the belonging, right? It's just if you don't feel like you belong in your family, you're gonna go somewhere else.